Good afternoon, how are we? You are listening to the Saturday session. I'm your host, Max Scott. Alongside me is Rory, Jennings, and we've got absolutely loads to get through this afternoon. The Crystal Palace Europa League saga continues. They're, of course, appealing their demotion to the Conference League. Palace fans, we want to know how you feel. The ruling is an absolute kick in the teeth, but how much blame do you place at the door of Steve Parish and John Textor? The absolute blockbuster soap opera at my beloved Nottingham Forest rages on. Our best talents jumping ship, more legal challenges on the horizon, and now potentially replacing Palace in the Europa League. I personally don't think it's the right thing, and actually I think the Conference League's the better competition to be in, because we could actually win it. Forest fans, Palace fans, get in touch. We'll of course be getting Rory's thoughts on how important winning the Club World Cup is for Chelsea. Chelsea fans, do you even care? And of course we'll be across all of the live sport for you. Here on talkSPORT, you've just heard the British and Irish Lions beat Australia and New Zealand Invitational 48-0 after this final try from Henry Pollock.
Henry Pollock's diving after this. Henry Pollock is claiming a try. Tain Edmed passed it back.
Well, McLaughlin Phillips gets his hands to the ball first before Pollock, but it's just whether he manages to ground it before Pollock comes in. I think that's a try.
Never has control of it, and Henry Pollock's left hand reaches around, pushes down on the ball, and Henry Pollock scores the try.
British and Irish Lions going great guns there, but it's also all about to kick off at SW19. What's occurring at Wimbledon, Lisa O'Sullivan?
Well, day 13 at the Championship puts the spotlight, or should that be sunlight, on the ladies' final. There'll be a new name on the Venus Rosewater dish, but before then, it's about men's doubles. Could we see the first all-British team to win a Grand Slam men's title since 1936? Alfie Hewitt and Gordon Reid are also in action in wheelchair doubles.
And of course, it's lunch on the third day between England and India. Sam Ellard.
Almost the perfect morning session for India, resuming 145 for 3. Final over before lunch, they were 248 for 3. Then a run out. Pant looking just to work Shoaib Bashir into the offside. There was never a single. Ben Stokes picked the ball up at cover and run out Rishabh Pant for 74. KRL goes to lunch, 98 not out. India 248 for 4, trailing England by 139 runs.
Brilliant stuff. Sam Ellard will, of course, be keeping you across all of the action from today's live sport. Let's get into it. This is the Saturday session. Rory Jennings, how are you, sir?
Yes, mate, very well. Of course I'm well. I'm flying. Chelsea are on the precipice of history yet again.
Would you consider it as history if Chelsea winning the Club World Cup? Does it mean that much to you, seriously?
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, I think it's important to acknowledge that we've won it before. This isn't our first rodeo. I know the competition.
Come on, it's not the same though, is it?
The competition has changed slightly, but it doesn't necessarily betray what we've achieved before. This is a trophy that we are already very familiar with. We're already London's first representative of the winners of this tournament. So to do it again in its newfound form would be fantastic. Of course it would.
Do you think that winning it would increase your hopes of being contenders for the Premier League next season? Because let's be honest, you've had a pretty good window. I think Liam Delap and João Pedro both look like they're going to be really important additions in that squad. I think you probably need to do more in terms of experience. But if you beat PSG, who have been on another stratosphere recently, are you starting to think, yeah, maybe we could be contenders here?
No, to be honest. I feel like we're very capable of beating Paris Saint-Germain. We're not favourites, but I think we've seen Chelsea over the years, whatever moment you think of, Chelsea have the ability to turn it on. We have the ability to win when people think it's impossible. We are the club that are most likely to do it. So I think that we can beat Paris Saint-Germain, whilst I do concede they're favourites, and whilst I do concede they're a wonderful team. However, does it suggest that Chelsea are going to launch a serious and sustained bid for the league? I just don't think we're going to have the consistency. And when you think about the genuine contenders for the league title next year, I just think we're off that. I think we're lacking in key areas. I don't think that we're capable of winning the league. We're an outside shot. We've got a puncher's chance, but I don't think we're league contenders. But can we beat Paris Saint-Germain to make history in New York City? I mean, anybody writing us off isn't familiar at all with the history of Chelsea Football Club.
Well, it reminds me of the words of the late, great Brian Clough. I hope anybody's not stupid enough to write us off. That seems to be your attitude towards the Club World Cup final, which, of course, is live exclusively on talkSPORT tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock kickoff, be presented by talkSPORT's voice of football, the legend that is Adrian Durham. I've got to ask you, though, Rory, off the back of a season which ended incredibly well, straight into a tournament in incredibly taxing hot conditions in the States. Are you concerned about the longer-term impact in terms of player welfare, in terms of how knackered your players might be? Do you think that could impact you?
Yes, Max, this is a worry. But it's more untried, isn't it? It's more untested. Like, we don't know. Ultimately, Chelsea here are the guinea pigs of this new tournament and the impact that this new tournament is going to have on your season that you embark upon in August. I really don't know. I think what has to happen is, and to be fair to Enzo Maresca, he's got this right. He has rotated through this competition.
Yeah, he's done well.
The other thing that I think we have to do, for the first, say, month of the season, we have to do our best to not use Cole Palmer. We have to do our best to not use...
Alleviate that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to do our best to preserve and almost allow the key members of the squad who are going to have to play a vital role as the season progresses, allow them to have a slow start to the season. And if you look at the fixtures that we have, say, for the first 6 to 8 games, they are the kind of fixtures that you could potentially rotate in, hopefully. So Maresca's really going to have to use the squad well, but no, I am worried. There is a genuine chance of burnout here, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that is going to be a concern, but there is a part of me that thinks, actually, with such a young squad, getting them playing together in these high-intensity games, I do think that could bode well for Chelsea next season. Chelsea fans, get in touch. Do you care about the Club World Cup? Do you share Rory's enthusiasm? Are you concerned about the impact this is going to have next year? Do you think that you have, as Rory's just said, a puncher's chance of winning the Premier League next season? Get in touch, give us a call, you will get through. 03717 22 3344. Send your texts in to 81089. This is the Saturday session live on talkSPORT. Good afternoon, you're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Chelsea broadcaster Rory Jennings. Of course, we've got loads of live sport going on as well today. It's lunchtime in the cricket. India got off to an absolute belter there in the test at the home of cricket at Lords. And of course, before the women's final at Wimbledon, the men's doubles final is underway, and Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool are a break ahead in the first set. We'll be getting some updates from Lisa O'Sullivan and Sam Ellard a little bit later on, but we're continuing our Chelsea chat with Rory Jennings, and we're asking, do Chelsea fans care if they win the Club World Cup? 03717 223344. Rory seems to think that it's the best thing since sliced bread, but I've got to say, Rory, let's be honest, you have had a pretty easy run, pretty easy route to the final. You've got to acknowledge that.
That does not dissipate or have any impact on the overall glory of winning silverware, does it? If England had won the World Cup in 2018 off the back of having the most favourable run possible, you wouldn't have celebrated any less. It doesn't make it a weaker achievement simply because you've had a favourable run.
It is the reality, right?
Yeah, we've had a favourable run, but whoever we've played have knocked somebody else out brilliant.
Okay,
yeah, we got a bit lucky, but yes, I think overall I will be over the moon if we win it.
Good for you. We've got Charles, the Chelsea fan. Charles, are you as enthusiastic about the Club World Cup as Rory across from me?
Absolutely. Come on, Chelsea. Come on, you Blues.
Good man.
And all they need to do is play the liquidator there, and we've got it. Don't worry about it.
Hey, well, it's not a tough task ahead. You've only got PSG, haven't you? What's your score prediction?
2-1 to Chelsea. 2-1 to Chelsea.
Yeah, I think we can do it. People that don't acknowledge that Chelsea are capable of winning in these circumstances, regardless of the brilliance of Paris Saint-Germain, they have no concept of our history, do they?
That's right. I think Paris Saint-Germain are just fast. I think if Chelsea can play, football, keep the ball, keep it fast, keep everything tight, we get that.
Love the confidence, Charles. I love it, Charles. I've got to ask you though as well. How do you feel about next season? Do you reckon you've got a puncher's chance for winning the league?
Strange. It's a strange thing because Last season, to start with, we thought we were going to walk it, and then we had that dead spot, and then everyone was like slating the management, and then right at the end they come true. So I think energy, what's gone on in the World Cup, the Club Cup, that's going to drain them a little bit. But all in all, yeah, I can't see why we can't get definitely top four.
Yeah, brilliant stuff, Charles. Thanks for the call. Absolute pleasure. Get your calls in 03717 223344. I love the enthusiasm. And look, I can't disagree with you, Chelsea, Rory, when you talk about Chelsea's title credentials. They just, it's particularly in recent history, they've just got that ruthlessness to do it when it counts. That, no one expected them to beat Man City in the Champions League final. Thomas Tuchel went and did it. And you have got that about you.
Yeah, and also it goes back generations. Like, this isn't, you're right, the Thomas Tuchel example is a great example to use. But it's as applicable to Roberto Di Matteo. It's as applicable to Chelsea in 1971 beating Real Madrid. Like, it really is part of who the club are. And it was great. It was really reassuring there to speak to Charles, a Chelsea fan, simply because he was completely correct. You know what I was fearful of when you went to the phone lines? I was fearful that you were going to introduce a Chelsea fan who tried to dilute the importance of this competition, who tried to suggest that it doesn't necessarily bear relevance for who Chelsea are. And to any Chelsea fan who genuinely believes that, to any Chelsea fan who would try and position this tournament as meaning nothing, I would actually question their credentials of being a Chelsea fan.
Do you understand why other fans from other clubs would think, oh yeah, decent achievement, but we're not that bothered?
No, I do understand why. There's one word for it. The word is jealousy. There is one word for it, and the word is jealousy. If you're an Arsenal fan and you're trying to belittle this competition, it is born out of nothing other than jealousy. If you're a Tottenham fan trying to belittle this competition, it is born out of nothing other than jealousy. Genuine football fans will never be sneery towards silverware. And if Chelsea can go to the States, to New York City, lift silverware, like, what are we doing here? Like, Chelsea went 25 years without any silverware. In the era that I was born, Chelsea went from 1971 to 1997 without any silverware. And suddenly, people are telling me that I should turn my nose up to a trophy. Like, what are we talking about? I remember when Tony Cascarino scored for us in the Makita Cup, I was over the moon. I remember when we looked like we had a parade when we lost the FA Cup final in 1994 because it felt like we got so close and achieved something quite incredible. I'm never going to be sneery or look down my nose at silverware, and anybody that does, I think they're totally missing the point of football.
Well, Sid, the Villa fans got in touch and said, quote unquote, best club in the world without the champions of England plus Arsenal, Spain and Italy, #shambles. Sid, the Villa fan, seems to be undermining the quality of you haven't got Liverpool in there, which is a great point. So the Club World Cup is not a tournament with the best teams in the world.
It is because
it's not because Liverpool aren't there.
No, but that's not the metric that it's built upon. It's built on the last 4 years, the winners of the Champions League, which are the best.
Well, isn't that metric in and of itself undermined by the fact that you don't have the likes of Liverpool in there?
No, you could argue that, but I would say that the Champions League winners over the past 4 years are all in it. And that is the metric that they are using to say they are the best 4 teams Liverpool aren't in it on merit.
But as a result of that, I understand your point, but as a result of that, you can understand why Sid the Villa fan and other fans are going to look at it and think, well, it's not like winning the Champions League. It's not like winning the Premier League or the FA Cup because the best teams in the world aren't there.
Although we are playing the champions of Europe.
Exactly.
We are playing the champions of Europe.
Nobody can take that away from you, of course.
Exactly.
How do you rate your chances against PSG, or, in all honesty?
Certainly underdogs. We're certainly going into it as, Paris Saint-Germain are the favourites. Luis Enrique is a sensational manager, a sensational man, in fact, and a far better manager than Enzo Maresca. These things are often won in the dugout, and if you look at the way that his team played in the Champions League final, it's probably the best Champions League final performance ever. Maybe AC Milan, Barcelona, maybe that. Yeah. But I think that what Luis Enrique has done to that Paris Saint-Germain team, off the back of losing Kylian Mbappe, off the back of almost reimagining the way that the team...
totally. Not almost. He has totally redefined who PSG are.
He's elite, isn't he, as a manager?
Absolutely incredible, and one day I would love to see him in the Premier League. Right, we're going to go back to SW19, where Lisa O'Sullivan is watching all of the latest updates from Wimbledon.
And Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool have made an excellent start to their men's doubles final against Rinky Hijikata of Australia and David Pell of the Netherlands. It's the first time in the Open era we've got an all-British pairing in the men's doubles final at Wimbledon. The 28-year-old Cash and 31-year-old Lloyd Glasspool, the most successful pairing on the circuit at the moment. They've picked up 4 titles together this year, and they have a double break in this first set, and serving 40-love 4-1 in the first set.
Brilliant stuff. That's Lisa O'Sullivan reporting from Wimbledon. Right, I'm looking forward to this because we've got lots of Liverpool fans calling up to have their say on Chelsea. That'll be blockbuster with Rory in a defiant mood this afternoon. And of course, we'll look at what's going on at Lords in the cricket. This is the Saturday session on talkSPORT.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause.
They'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. He's become such an important player, an excellent talent.
Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. OK, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings.
Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone before a minute's silence prior to kick-off. All players will wear black armbands and the teams will lay wreaths. And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. The scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week.
Remember, Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitational side is live and exclusive on talkSPORT.
Good afternoon, you're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory, Jennings. Over at SW19, Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool going great guns in the men's doubles final. They're 5-2 up at the minute, serving for the set. We're going to get an update from the cricket as well later on with Sam Ellard, but it's really important for us now to welcome in Sam Rossbottom from Betfair to the show. Sam, it is lunch.
How's it going? How you doing, fellas?
I'm doing really well, Sam. I'm doing really well. We're going to get to you in a sec, but of course it's time now for the preview with Betfair.
England versus India Test Series preview on talkSPORT with Betfair. Built for big game players. Head to the Betfair app for the latest odds. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Sam, it's lunch on the third day. What are the in-play odds? Because India looking to be going great guns there.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating, that session, wasn't it? And you just feel that India are starting to take the momentum. England really could have done with a few more wickets, couldn't they, in that session then? Yeah. In fact, the odds have swung in India's favour now. Still finally poised, though. India currently 6-4, England 15-8, so not too much still between them. Obviously, the markets are changing constantly with what happens, and if we want to see those markets swing back in India's favour, then they've really got to have some big moments in this next session, haven't we? Looking at the Betfair predicts graph, what all this means: India have roughly got a 39% chance of winning now in this game, and England currently 31%. As things stand, looking at the series, finally poised out in the minute 1-1. England the favourites to win the Test Series, 52% chance according to Betfair predicts. So touch of odds on there. England 40%, but those chances no doubt will change with whoever wins this game.
Absolutely, yeah. The momentum keeps swinging in this series. But with that in mind, do you have any specials on this match?
Yes, we certainly do. We've got a lot of odds on that in play at the minute over on the Betfair Sportsbook. Some really interesting ones that are taking my eye. I'm looking at KL Rahul to score 200+ runs in this first innings. That's 13-2. Obviously, we saw his countryman do just that, Shubman Gill, didn't we, in the last test. He's currently on 98. Looks like he's going to get his ton. Can he get a double ton? 13-2. Looking at the total run lines at the moment for India, 416.5, so our traders are thinking that they're going to be putting a big score on here, and if they do get close to that, then England are going to need a solid second innings, aren't they? Hopefully we'll see them back out batting today. That might be a little bit optimistic, to be honest with you. The longer Rahul keeps knocking them right back to the bowlers, the less likely that is. But it is all eyes on the bowling attack. Great to see Jofra Archer back, isn't it? I mean, yesterday, what a moment that was, that third ball wicket. Yeah, we've got a nice little odds in play bet on him there. Jofra Archer to take 3+ wickets in this first innings, 15-8. He's obviously already got one, hasn't he? So fingers crossed that he can really take this game by the scruff of the neck. And a lot of talk coming into this match on Ben Duckett and Zach Crawley. They didn't do it, did they? The pressure's going to be on them in the second innings. For them both to score 50+ runs each, 5-1 that is at the minute, and I just wonder, they're going to be sat there around the table at lunch, aren't they? They're going to be thinking, we really have to step up in the second innings. And at 5-1, for them to both score 50+ runs, I think is quite good value.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant stuff, Sam. That was a look at the latest Test Series action with Betfair 18+, begambleaware.org.
England versus India Test Series preview on talkSPORT with Betfair. Built for big game players. Head to the Betfair app for the latest odds. 18+, gambleaware.org.
Right, we're going to go back to the texts and calls on Chelsea in a moment, but there is some breaking Lions news coming out of Australia. talkSPORT can confirm that Gary Ringrose is out of the first test against Australia next week. Ringrose had missed training this week and is now out for the first test match against the Wallabies. We'll be speaking to our talkSPORT's rugby correspondent Alfie Reynolds a little bit later in the show, and of course get his reaction to that. But we're talking Chelsea at the minute. Do Chelsea fans care if they win the Club World Cup? Well, we've got a couple of texts in. This is Les. He says, Rory, I love you sometimes, I really do. Especially when you make me laugh. You Blues brothers are delusional. You're not beating PSG, not a chance. And next season, you aren't getting 3 points at the Lane either. That is Les, the Spurs fan.
3-point late. Look, he's sort of making a decent point up until he started suggesting that Chelsea won't win at White Hart Lane. Chelsea win at White Hart Lane almost regardless. It doesn't matter whether it's Toure Andre Flo, Bernard Lambourne or Bjarne Goldbeck scoring. Like we won't win at White Hart Lane. I mean,
that's a bold claim.
If I asked you a banker for next season, one thing that will happen next season, you go, well, Chelsea win at Tottenham, don't we?
Well, look, you've got Toby, the Chelsea fan, who is backing you, says, Rory has this bang on, absolutely buzzing for the final tomorrow. Are we the best team in the world? No, probably not, but a trophy is a trophy. We're there on merit, and any other club will be as excited if it was them. That's Toby, the Chelsea fan. Now, we've got Barry, who's a Liverpool fan on the line. Barry, do you agree? Do you think this would be great for Chelsea if they won the Club World Cup?
Sounds like he agrees with me.
Barry's bottled it there.
Barry's bottled it.
He can't
Barry's
hack it.
bottled it.
He can't hack it. But we have got Mark on. Mark, you're a Leeds fan. What do you want to say?
Well, I've got to take my tribalist hat off by here now and put my Premier League hat on. I want Chelsea to win this competition. Do I think they will? No. I think their goalkeeper will let them down as they will in the league next year. I think it's out of the 17 goalkeepers they signed last year, you'd think they get one decent one.
Yeah,
but,
I agree.
There we are.
Why, Mark? Why do you want Chelsea to win this? I'm surprised. Obviously, Chelsea and Leeds are historic rivals. Why do you want us to beat Paris Saint-Germain?
This is the thing. I think the Premier League, we say we've got the greatest league in the world. And I think Chelsea representing the Premier League, I think somebody needs to go out there and show everybody that Paris can be beaten. I think they are the best team in the world at the moment, Paris. They played some unbelievable football, and it's a pleasure to watch. And I think Chelsea representing the Premier League, they might not be the strongest team in the Premier League, but they are representing them.
Mark,
I think they need to go out there and absolutely, I think it'd be a big thumbs up to the Premier League to show them that they can beat some teams like that.
Yeah, I'm with Mark on that. I always want English teams to do well in the European competitions. I think it, represents England, represents Great Britain. That's what I want to see personally. We've got Zach, the Chelsea fan. Are you backing the Blues to beat PSG, Zach?
Oh, that's a tough choice, to be fair. I'm not sure. It's going to be... Because obviously they've just beat Real Madrid 4-0. I'm not really sure. I believe we can do it, but I think we need them to have a really bad day.
Yeah, I think you're right, Zach. I think Chelsea needs to go our way. We need to have the luck, and they need to have an off day. But we've seen it happen. And actually, we've seen it happen when the odds are far more stacked against us than they are in a one-off game in New York City against Paris Saint-Germain. We beat Bayern Munich in Munich.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially in the final in 2021 against Man City, I thought we were going to struggle. Because obviously we haven't beaten Man City since the final.
No, so, we won the important one, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So hopefully, if all goes to plan tomorrow, we might take the trophy home.
Yeah, I'm confident. I think I'm more confident than Zach. Zach seems to be suggesting that it could be tricky and whatever else, and almost we're relying on on luck. It needs to go our way.
Well, look,
I'm more confident in that, Max.
Zach, great call, by the way. I appreciate the sort of the trepidation because, look, you are playing against PSG, but we just got a text from Kevin here. He doesn't share your optimism. He says, oh, my God, never heard such a biased person. PSG will totally hammer them. Unproven manager that fans didn't want. And now he's the best thing since sliced bread up the PSG. That's from Kevin. Don't know who he supports. But he's got an interesting point. You know, Enzo Maresca, he had some touchy moments with Chelsea fans last season.
I'm not a huge fan of Enzo Maresca. I admit that he's getting a lot right at the moment, but I feel like there is a flaw to his game and he's developing. When we've given a manager his first opportunity in the Premier League, naturally there's going to be a learning curve. Naturally there's going to be mistakes made in the way that Mikel Arteta, when he was plucked off Man City's bench and was given his first role in management. When you appoint a manager in the genesis of their career, there's obviously going to be development. There's obviously going to be mistakes made along the way. I'm suggesting that Chelsea are capable of winning this game, and it's more to do with the culture and the history of Chelsea Football Club than it is anything to do with Enzo Maresca. Chelsea turn up in finals. We are the opposite of Arsenal. That's what we do. We turn up when it most matters, and that's why we can win this.
Any opportunity for a little dig at the Arsenal, Rory?
Well, you guys, I just say what I see. I tell the truth. We are a club that will perennially turn up when it most matters. Some clubs do that. Some clubs, you know you're in a game when they turn up. And Chelsea in a final, particularly in a European final, like even really poor Chelsea teams over the years have done incredible things in Europe. Like you think back to the year that we lost the '94 FA Cup final. We went in because Manchester United won the league. We went into Europe. Like, we weren't a particularly good team. We got to the semi-final. We beat Real Zaragoza at home, who ended up winning the competition. We were actually destined for a Parisian final against Arsenal, but we just couldn't get over the line. But we did beat Real Zaragoza at home, who went on to beat Arsenal in the final. That was a Chelsea team that at one point in the previous season could have gone down. Mark Stein had to score in 6 games in a row to keep us up. Like, we weren't a good team, but we turn up in Europe. And there's no reason why Chelsea can't beat Paris Saint-Germain in New York City to become the first winners of the new reinvented Club World Cup.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a tough ask nonetheless, but if you're a Chelsea fan listening to Rory, I'm sure you're revved up for that. That is going to be exclusive on talkSPORT, live on talkSPORT tomorrow evening from 8 o'clock. I think we're going to go to Wimbledon now, where Lisa O'Sullivan is watching for talkSPORT. What's the latest there, Lisa, in the men's doubles final?
It's been a clinical start for the British duo so far here on Centre Court. The men's double final acting as a warm-up for the ladies' singles for the first time in Wimbledon history. Cash and Glasspool taking just 26 minutes to take that first set, 6-2 against Rinky Hijikata of Australia and the left-handed David Pell of the Netherlands. Things a little more even in this second set so far. One game apiece with, it looks to me like Rinky Hijikata is about to serve.
Brilliant stuff, Lisa. Thank you. And Ben Stokes and the boys are back out at the home of cricket. Sam Ellard.
They're back out. India resuming 248 for 4, trailing England by 135 runs. It was a morning session that was dominated by India, and in particular KR Ayol and Rishabh Pant, who put on a brilliant partnership for the 4th wicket. And then the final ball before lunch, there was a run out. Rishabh Pant prodding Shoaib Bashir into the offside. There was a yes, no, he then went. Ben Stokes, a brillint bit of fielding at cover, hitting the non-striker's end. So Rishabh Pant will run out for 74. So India resuming the afternoon session with Ravi Jadeja out the crease at 6. He's 4 runs to his name already, and KR Ayol is on strike now, Max. He's looking for another Test match 100, unbeaten on 99 from 173 balls. Jofra Archer with the ball in hand from the nursery end comes into KR Ayol, who just defends it to mid-on. So KR Ayol 1 run away from a Test match 100. England looking for wickets. It's a good wicket, blue skies. India 253 for 4 with work still to do. They're trailing England by 134 runs.
Wonderful words there from Sam Ellard. We've just received a text that has completely thrown me, and it's put me off. I don't know who I am anymore. My equilibrium is off having read this. The text reads, "Afternoon, handsome Max. I asked for more Max, and then here you are. Shame you're on with know-it-all Rory. Chelsea have no chance. Paris Saint-Germain, look at their route to the final. I can give you a ring if you like. Jill, kiss, kiss. United fan, the OG." Have you sent this?
No,
have you texted this? While Sam Ellard was delivering the cricket update, have you been texting in, ready for me to read?
As Jill.
Good afternoon, the handsome Max.
What can I say?
You need to get to Specsavers, Jill. Good afternoon, handsome Max.
Mate, what can I say? I've already getting some admirers. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with Jill. She's absolutely bang on the nail there. Right, coming up next, we're going to get stuck into the absolute saga involving Crystal Palace. As it stands, demoted to the Conference League. Palace fans, get on the phone, 0371722 3344. This is the Saturday session on talkSPORT. owners to buy multiple clubs, it seems a massive contradiction when those teams become successful enough to play each other in European competitions, then all of a sudden they're in breach of a rule. If you're a Crystal Palace fan, Rory, this is an absolute devastating news.
Yeah, it's a disgrace. Like, they've been robbed of something. They've been robbed of something that they've achieved, a sporting achievement, a historic sporting achievement that will go down as one of the greatest days in their history, regardless of what comes next. That day, beating Man City at Wembley, the glory that came with it, the statement that came with it. Crystal Palace have been rejuvenated over the past decade or so, from the ground up, from the bottom up, from the grassroots. They have changed the fabric of their club, and they are now a serious football club, winning serious trophies, beating serious teams, and they deserve to go into the Europa League. That is what they earned. And the fact that they've been launched out of the Europa League through no sporting reason is unjust. And I'll put it to you, Max. Do you believe, as a man who is a season ticket holder at Nottingham Forest, is there any truth in what I'm about to say? That Crystal Palace being demoted from the tournament that they should be in is so egregious that Nottingham Forest should actually refuse to take their place. Forest should say to UEFA, no, this is unjust, this is wrong, and we will play. We are Nottingham Forest. We earned a right to play in the Conference League. We will do that. Crystal Palace earned the right on the pitch, and through sheer idiocy at bureaucratic level, made a mistake, and we will not take their place in the Europa League.
Don't get me wrong. I think that the rules themselves are an absolute contradiction. I think ultimately they're stupid rules. I think what's happened to Crystal Palace is wrong. As you say, I think they deserve their right. But I think it's probably a little bit much, and we all know in reality it's not going to happen. Evangelos Marinakis isn't going to give Crystal Palace the Europa League, or say we refuse to, because that wouldn't benefit his club, and it's his responsibility is to look after Nottingham Forest. So no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's highly unrealistic. And what
about morally? Should you do that?
No, I don't. No. I just think morally you have a responsibility to look after your club. And whilst I don't like the rules, whilst I think that UEFA's rules are bang out of order and inherent contradiction, talk about responsibility. Steve Parish needs to take responsibility here. He hasn't ensured that all of the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and he has let the club down in not covering all bases and not ensuring that all of the affairs were in order. And whilst the rules are unfair, whilst they're incredibly harsh on Crystal Palace, it is still Steve Parish's job to ensure that they are not in breach of those ridiculous rules, and they are. Now, this is obviously going to be an issue that plagues the game moving forward, because multi-club ownership is growing in the game. And interestingly, on kickoff last night, talkSPORT correspondent Ben Jacobs had this idea about how to avoid the situation in the future.
Well, the irony is the deadline used to be at the end of the season for this very reason, and they moved it earlier, and it forced Crystal Palace, if they were to notify Lyon of a possible conflict, to take a gamble at that point, with no control, by the way, over what Lyon did, other than the fact that John Textor was sort of the vehicle to go to Lyon and say, do we need to do something? But at the point when that deadline was around, Crystal Palace were in the fourth round of the FA Cup. So they had no reason. And logically, even though letter of the law and all of that, but going forwards, if UEFA were to make an amendment, what it should be is, if on March the 1st you're not in a reasonable position where you think you might be on course for a conflict, then there should be a secondary grace period where retrospectively you can say, we were not in European contention, we were not rivaling Lyon, and then suddenly we go on a fairy tale run, we beat all manner of teams that people didn't expect Palace to beat, including in the final. And then you should be able to celebrate that and go back and say, well, now out of the blue, out of nowhere, we've got glory, we've got silverware, we've got Europe.
talkSPORT's Ben Jacobs there discussing how clubs can avoid this moving forward. We've just got a fantastic text from Josh, the Crystal Palace fan. He says, hi guys, there is a silver lining to this. Whilst it's absolutely not right, and I agree with this, they could actually, Palace, have a really good chance of going far in the Conference League and potentially replicate something like West Ham did. That probably isn't as likely in the Europa League. Great text, Josh. I was just going to put it to you. As a Forest fan, I don't like the idea that we're taking Palace's rightful place, but we will if Palace don't win their appeal against the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But as a Forest fan, I prefer, particularly considering all of our greatest talents jumping ship at the minute and they're dropping like flies, I think for Palace or Forest, it's actually better to be in the Conference League. You don't get the immediate, I think it's 40 odd million quid sort of bump for being in the Europa League. But you can win the Conference League, and in the long term, you've got much better chance of going far in that competition, then qualifying for the Europa League by winning it. And you've seen sort of how amazing it was for West Ham to win a European trophy. Rory, do you think that actually, in the long term, it's potentially better, as Josh is saying, as I'm putting to you, that it's better to be in the Conference League?
Absolutely not. It actually sounds like a lack of ambition. There's no way, firstly, let's look at it from Marianakis' point of view. He will obviously want to be in the superior competition, simply because of the money and the prestige that goes with it. Also, when you talk about Nottingham Forest having a better chance, or Crystal Palace having a better chance to win the Conference League than they would the Europa League, you are, of course, right, because it's a lesser competition. But when you think about the amount of money that is sloshing around the Premier League, particularly compared to Europe, I think that whatever English team is in either competition have a great chance. I think Aston Villa, if you think about who Aston Villa are, who Aston Villa's manager is, Aston Villa's history, big club, great stadium, and have obviously won the European Cup before. Aston Villa in that competition, they're one of the favourites, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason why Forest, when you look at the other teams that are in that competition, if Forest end up in the Europa League, I feel like, are Nottingham Forest better than Freiburg? I think they probably are. Are they better than Bologna? I think they probably are. Are they better than Lille? Probably. There are teams there that will obviously look at Nottingham Forest and think that they are capable of beating them. But I don't think that Nottingham Forest would be scared of playing Real Betis.
Well, look, we're going to continue this discussion in a moment, but we've got to go to Wimbledon. Lisa O'Sullivan is at SW19. What is the latest, Lisa?
It's looking good for the British pairing. Lloyd Glasspool serving 3-2 in the second set, leading by a set against Hijikata and Pell. And Julian Clash signalling what he wants his partner to do, but there's not much they're doing wrong so far. Best of three this, not a best of five match as it has been previously. And it looks like the British pair, who are the first British pair into a Wimbledon final in the Open era, could be making further history later today. They lead by a set and are a break up in the second.
Thank you, Lisa. Great to hear history being made at Wimbledon by the Brits pairing, but we got to get your calls in. 03717 223344. Crystal Palace fans, how do you feel about your situation? Would you prefer Conference League? Do you agree with Josh, the Palace fan, that you've got a better chance of winning, you've got a better chance of going further in Europe in seasons to come if you get the Conference League? Or do you just think that this is an absolute travesty and UEFA have done you dirty? 03717 223344. You're listening to the Saturday Session on talkSPORT.
Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause. Former Forest striker Rob Earnshaw.
Let's face it, they'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. That's what I believe. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. I think he's become such an important player, an excellent talent, and on top of that, he's also their captain, the leader, and he's still a young man with not reached his full potential.
Forest have already lost Anthony Elanga to Newcastle. Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager, Alan Pardew.
I think that's an inspired move because, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings. With Norgard going on to the Arsenal, it seems like a perfect replacement to me.
It's our understanding Henderson will opt for the red and white stripes of Brentford after leaving Ajax. Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone for a minute's silence prior to kick-off.
British pair to reach Wimbledon finals since 1960, and after 18 straight
and some
defeats,
positive
Wales
news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. Obviously, he didn't look great against the Brumbies, but actually, the scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week, and then it'll be a little bit of a waiting game in terms of whether he's available for the first test.
Premium brands available, we've got what you need to drive away happy every time. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com.
Remember Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitational side
with some
live
light
and
winds. A
exclusive
yellow heat
on
health
talkSPORT.
alert is in place in the north of England, while the rest of the country is under an amber alert.
On the talkSPORT app, on your smart speaker, on your mobile, and on your smart TV. talkSPORT, the Saturday session.
Set yourself up for Saturday.
High energy national sports Saturday.
The intersection of sport, celebrity, and Saturday.
The choice of the professionals.
Gold talk for the people. The Saturday session on talkSPORT.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, and broadcaster and massive Chelsea fan Rory Jennings here. On talkSPORT earlier, you heard the British and Irish Lions beat the Australia and New Zealand Invitational 48-0 after this final try from Henry Pollock.
Henry Pollock's diving after this one. Henry Pollock is claiming a try. Tain Edmed passed it back.
Well, McLaughlin-Phillips gets his hands to the ball first before Pollock, but it's just whether he manages to ground it before Pollock comes in. I think that's a try.
Never has control of it, and Henry Pollock's left hand reaches around, pushes down on the ball, and Henry Pollock scores the try.
Brilliant from Pollock, first try in a Lions jersey. But what's the latest from the men's doubles final at Wimbledon, Lisa O'Sullivan?
Two British men poised to rewrite the record books, Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool, are 2 games away from becoming the first all-British team to take the title in 91 years.
And at the cricket between England and India are 259 for 5. Sam Ellard?
Yeah, the wicket to fall after lunch. KR Rahul, he got to 100, then out looking to drive a 4-ball from Bashir. Found the outside edge, caught a first slip by Harry Brook. England nearly had another wicket a short while ago. Archer going around the wicket to Jadeja, hit him on the pad. Big appeals for LBW. While that was happening, Jadeja went for a run. Ollie Pope throwing down the stumps, a square leg, missed the stumps. If he hit, Nitish Reddy would have been out by a long distance. Jadeja's got 8, and there was nearly another run out. India's running is comical. England working hard here, another run out. Nitish Reddy nearly run out for a duck. He would have been miles out if the stumps was hit. India 259 for 5, trailing by 128 runs.
Brilliant stuff, Sam Ellard there at the home of cricket. Right, let's get into it then. This is the Saturday session. Okay, we're going to get back to the debate and the discussion around Crystal Palace. Who's in the wrong? Is it Palace? Is it Textor? Is it Steve Parish? Or is it UEFA? Or is it both? But first, some breaking news coming out of Manchester United. Andre Onana has suffered a hamstring injury in pre-season and is set to miss the tour of America. He's in a race to be fit for the start of the season, so Manchester United may look to sign another goalkeeper. I mean, that might be a blessing in disguise. Who knows? United fans, get in touch. But we're going back to the big issue of the week, the big issue of the summer in my mind regarding Crystal Palace. They've been demoted to the Conference League. Lots of fans getting in touch from all different persuasions and clubs. George, the Middlesbrough fan, what do you make of this, George? Do you think it's Palace? Do you think it's UEFA? How are you feeling about it?
Decent show, lads, by the way. Keep it up. I think UEFA are being a bit harsh. When you take into perspective the fact that it's, as historic an event as it actually was, first time they've qualified for Europe and everything like that, and they've come through the ringer and worked up to it. I think it's an absolute travesty over it. What must be maybe a month or whatever being out of it.
Yeah.
And Textor himself, he's got to hold his hand up because I think he's probably the most to blame because he should have realised what was coming. I don't know what he was thinking or why he didn't see it coming, but you've got to have an idea of we're getting further and further into this, But like you said, it was a kind of a weird run into it because they were beating teams that weren't expected, but they beat Man City in the final. Do you know what I mean? And it was a massive event, and now UEFA have come and effectively dumped on it. And I think that's out of order.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, George? Because we've seen a lot of clubs over the years that have broken financial controls loads and loads of times, and almost all of them have been fined. The first time that there has been a major penalty, the first time that a club that have broken one of these rules has actually been affected in this draconian way, it's Crystal Palace. It's almost as if UEFA are choosing the easiest target in Palace to make an example of them.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, a fine would have been a more appropriate response.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we all know, first and foremost, as it says, with yourself, Rory, you're a massive Chelsea fan. You're that before anything else, and the club would be nothing without people like yourself as a fan. Middlesbrough would be nothing without people like me as a fan.
Absolutely.
Every club out there would be nothing. We'd be just a bunch of people running around the field playing football. You wouldn't be anything. You wouldn't be a name. You wouldn't be a team. You'd just be a bunch of people playing a game. So
I completely agree,
the fans
George.
are the ones that are really hurting more than anyone because they've seen their club miss out, and they finally get something and get kicked in the teeth. I think that's out of order. I think it's just disgraceful.
Yeah, I think this could go down. This when we look back on this, in a decade's time, when we kind of do like the football years and we start talking about what happened, and this will become one of those stories that people discuss. This will go down as one of those great injustices.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well said, George. It's important. Ultimately, the true victims of this are Crystal Palace fans, because they've been denied the opportunity. But I do think it's important also to have a little bit of nuance here and just to remember that despite the fact that these rules are ridiculous, despite the fact that they're contradictory, they exist. And the people at the top of Crystal Palace ultimately did not get their affairs in order. Now, one club who could have been standing to benefit from this are, of course, Palace's rivals Brighton, but it looks like they're not going to be promoted to the Conference League because Palace will take that place. They've not been booted out of Europe entirely. And Andy is a Brighton fan. Andy, what do you make of this as a Brighton fan? Would you have liked to have taken Palace's place?
Well, look, firstly, I think Palace have deserved it, right? Because they've created history, and although there are big rivals, I absolutely get why they should be in it from a footballing point of view.
Well said.
Well said. Just a bit of context, though. Firstly, Palace in the fifth round before March the 1st were at home to Millwall. So if you haven't got the ambition to win it then and deal with it, then there's something wrong with your ambition as a club. So, they were never expected to win it is a bit of a myth, because if you're in the fifth round at home to Millwall, you start thinking about Wembley.
And I agree with you. John Textor said as much as well about Steve Parish when he was here on talkSPORT. He said Steve Parish's ambition is to keep Palace in the Premier League. My ambition is to win trophies. So, I think it's a fair point from Andy.
No, and Andy, I think you're correct here. I think you are completely correct. In the letter of the law, they've broken the rules, and therefore, on some level, they should be punished. But this March the 1st, it's such an arbitrary deadline, isn't it? Like, what? So what? Why March the 1st? Why not July the 12th?
It's irrelevant, because that was the rule and everyone knew it, and that's when you have to make a decision. But there's three questions that fall out of this for me, which I haven't heard addressed on talkSPORT. One, which is when Textor bought into Palace and he had Leon, why then were either Leon or Palace not saying, in one of these clubs you've got to put your shares into a blind trust, because we're both ambitious? So this should have been done months, if not years ago, right? So that's the first question I had. You've kind of addressed, I still don't know why Palace can play in the Conference League, because I thought Textor had connections with Copenhagen, and that would bar them from being in that. I don't know. Nobody's come up with that. And the third thing, Max, which you're not going to like, is my question around this blind trust rubbish, because your owner has put his shares into a blind trust. And does anybody see any difference in the influence he has in Forest?
It's a great point. One thing I would say is that the issue that Palace, if they go down to the Conference League, is regarding the co-owner Blitzen and his control in Bromby. So that's another thing that we still need to see how that plays out. When it comes to sort of Nottingham Forest, I mean, look. You're right. These rules are incredible. I'm not going to sit here and sort of say that the rules aren't sort of incredibly vague and that they don't seem to be punishing, that they're punishing Palace unfairly. But the reality is that despite that, as you rightly say, Palace broke the rules, and this regardless of when the deadline is.
What's changed with Forest by putting those shares to a blind trust? Because every single issue.
Yeah. I'm not defending that. What's changed is that he's ticked a UEFA box. That's what's changed. And again, this whole point just, I guess, exposes how ridiculous these rules are. I'm not sitting here saying that clearly Evangelos Marinakis isn't involved in what's happening at Nottingham Forest, but he's done what he's meant to do as the custodian of the football club, and he got his affairs in order, and he's appeased UEFA's absolutely astonishing rules. I think all of this exposes that, right? It shows that UEFA.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But if Palace asked the question to UEFA, demonstrate that Marinakis now has no influence over Nottingham Forest, how the hell would Forest do that?
I'm sure they will be at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But it's a great point. It's a great point. Let me just say, Andy, in answer to your first question, I think that when John Textor did not believe, and Steve Parish, and to be fair to the board at Palace, they did not believe that John Textor had a decisive influence at the club, and therefore they didn't think that therefore they should be in breach of these rules.
In which case, why not just put the shares into a blind trust anyway?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, they should have done that.
But it's about the severity of the punishment as well, isn't it? Like Crystal Palace here.
I get that. Yeah.
Crystal Palace here. It feels like that UEFA are making an example of them to serve as a warning to the elite clubs. Like, ultimately, Crystal Palace aren't a big enough club from UEFA's point of view to care whether they're in Europe. If this was Manchester United, I don't think UEFA think that they kick Manchester United out of the competition.
I think you're absolutely bang on. The optics are not great, and all it does is serve to exacerbate the issue that football fans feel deep down in their bones, that the game works for the richest and not necessarily for the standard football club like Crystal Palace, like Nottingham Forest, but particularly Crystal Palace in this situation. Andy, absolute belter of a call.
Brilliant
Thank
call,
you
Andy.
so
Very
much
informed
for
as well.
for getting in touch. Right, we're going to head back to SW19. Lisa O'Sullivan is watching a Wimbledon. What's happening, Lisa?
Australia's Rinky Hijikata and David Pell of the Netherlands are not going down without a fight against Cash and Glassball of Great Britain in this men's doubles final. Cash and Glassball taking that first set 6-2, but it's back on serve. 5 games all in the second, and Hijikata and Pell have actually saved match points in 3 matches en route to the final here, so they know about digging in for the long term. 5 games all in the second. Cash and Glassball lead by a set.
Thank you, Lisa. Now we're going to head back to Lords, where I'm just seeing Jofra Archer, by the way, looking suave as anything in his England whites with his big gold chain. What's happening, Sam Ellard?
This is a fascinating passage of play. India 267 for 5, trailing by 124. The fascinating passage started first ball before lunch when Rishabh Pant was run out for 74. KR all off the lunch, got to 100, then got out, edging Shoaib Bashir to first slip. Harry Brook taking the catch. There's then been 2 run-out opportunities for England, both falling to Ollie Pope. Both times India going for runs that just simply weren't there. And if the ball had hit the stumps, there would have been 2 wickets for England. India surviving those 2 run-outs, and you mentioned there Jofra Archer, his last 11 balls have been in excess of 90 miles an hour. He just bowled some short stuff to Nitish Reddy, and some short stuff and some chat too. A little bit of needed out there. It's bubbling along nicely this afternoon. Feels like this game is going to move along pretty quickly in this afternoon session. India up against it, England bang on the money, and we got the second new ball available in 6 overs time. Jadeja's got 16, Nitish Reddy yet to get off the mark. India 267 for 5, trailing by 120.
Thank you, Sam Ellard, reporting from the home of cricket. The third test set on an absolute knife edge. We will, of course, be keeping you updated from that and what's happening at Wimbledon ahead of the women's finals there. Right, please stay tuned, because next up we're going to continue as the sort of soap opera at my beloved Nottingham Forest continues regarding Morgan Gibbs-White, and we'll be looking at the latest transfer news as well. You're listening to the Saturday Session on talkSPORT.
elite do battle in the Grand Slam event of the year, stay in touch with the highs, the lows, the tie-breaks and the triumphs.
Join me, Nick Kyrgios, on talkSPORT throughout the tournament with updates direct from SW19 on how I see things unfolding.
Serving up ace tennis coverage throughout the entire tournament on talkSPORT.
Good afternoon, how are we? You're listening to the Saturday session here on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory, Jennings. There's loads of live sport currently ongoing. England 268 for 5 at Lords against India. It hangs on a knife edge there. And of course in the Wimbledon, the men's doubles final is ongoing. We'll go to Lisa Sullivan a little bit later on to get an update there ahead of the women's final as well. But we're going to get stuck into the dramatic transfer saga involving Morgan Gibbs-White and my beloved Nottingham Forest, because the latest here is that Forest are considering legal action over what they claim is an illegal approach from Spurs for their magician, their captain Morgan Gibbs-White. Forest say they never gave Gibbs White permission to speak to Spurs and are suspicious over a breach of confidentiality regarding his £60 million release clause. Now, our man in the know, talkSPORT's chief football correspondent Alex Crook was on game day breakfast this morning and says he believes Spurs will still get their man.
Forest have reacted angrily yesterday. They've accused Tottenham of tapping up their player. They've gone to the Premier League. They're contemplating legal action. They're saying this deal is off as it stands. I'm not sure it is off. I think it's just been delayed. I think it's very difficult to prove an illegal approach, particularly in 2025, when the way that deals work by and large is that players hold talks with clubs long before a formal bid goes in. It's just the accepted new order, really. And I think you have to go all the way back to Ashley Cole and that saga involving him and Arsenal and Chelsea for the last time a tapping up allegation was actually proven. So I think this is just Forest posturing. I know the owner, Evangelos Marinakis, is personally angry with Morgan Gibbs-White, having been given assurances that he would only leave for a club of a certain stature. He doesn't see Tottenham as a club of that stature, but clearly Gibbs-White does.
Understandably, Evangelos Marinakis frustrated at his main man, the man who we were, of course, all hoping would take us to Conference League glory, that he's now on his way out the door. Rory Jennings, the soap opera at My Nottingham Forest continues. There's never a dull day being a Forest fan, particularly in the business we're in. I mean, just in the last couple of days, they've heard that their best player is leaving for a release clause no one knew about. They've signed Jay Cunha, Brazilian defender, considered legal action against Spurs, as we've just been hearing, released a brand new home kit. Anthony Elanga been confirmed at Newcastle United, and then been provisionally, of course, upgraded to the Europa League. I mean, absolute... It's blockbuster stuff, let's be honest.
Yeah, you've become very newsworthy. I think it's because of your owner. Like, your owner seems to conduct himself in a way that is interesting. It's quite bolshy, it's quite forthright. I don't dislike all of it. And what you can certainly tell is that he's got his club's best interests at heart, almost at the expense of everything else, which is exactly what you want for the custodian of your club.
It might wind up other football fans, it might wind up the hierarchy in football and the established order, but, don't get, there's no bones about it. It endears the fan base to him, because we all know he's passionate about our club. We don't care that other people don't like him. We don't care that it winds other people up, because he's backing us and ultimately has bankrolled us from the bottom of the Championship just 3 years ago to now being, as it stands, in the Europa League.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing
so you can understand, with a man of that passion and with a man of that pride for the club that he is the custodian of, that he's absolutely fuming when he's blindsided by his main man Morgan Gibbs-White jumping ship to Spurs. And so there's I guess the pressing matter at hand, of course, it is going to be this legal action, but it's about who we get in now, because there has been a massive hole ripped out of the very heart of this Nottingham Forest squad, and I just think it's vital that very quickly we start replacing Elanga and Morgan Gibbs-White, because otherwise I worry about the ripple effect that this is going to have, that the other big players in that dressing room are going to be thinking, hold on a minute, this ship's sinking, I need to get out.
With regard to that then, obviously Marinakis, the way that he's conducted himself and his business at Nottingham Forest, certainly if you're a Forest fan, you're going to be very, very impressed by what he's done at the club so far.
Yeah,
do you trust him in this circumstance? So you've got now to a serious level. Nottingham Forest are now a serious football club. There were genuine discussions on this very show. In fact, I remember listening to talkSPORT not that long ago, and Jim White and Simon Jordan had a sportsman's bet, I believe, about Nottingham Forest winning the league. So that was a genuine conversation. Nottingham Forest went from being also-rans relegation fodder to genuine contenders. Now, though, you're in Europe, you need to step up. There is almost a shift in terms of the aspiration and in terms of the way that you strategise.
Yeah.
Do you trust Marinakis from here on out?
Yeah, I do. I mean, first of all, Marinakis has been speaking about creating new history at Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest have been a club all of my life where I've been proud of what we've achieved in the past, where I've been told about the miracle men, about the great Brian Clough, about all of those players that achieved the greatest miracle that football has ever seen, being promoted from the second division to the first division, winning the league, obviously the equivalent of the Premier League in the first season back, then the next season winning the Champions League, then winning it back to back. That's part of our European history. But Marinakis, his focus, his desire is about creating new history. So from when we were in the Championship, he was talking about that. So don't get me wrong, this has been on the horizon. This has been the master plan ever since he took over at the club and sailed us through incredibly choppy waters. Of course, before we got Steve Cooper in, we were at the bottom of the Championship. But he's always invested. And you've got to remember that he's also the owner of Olympiacos, who won their first European trophy a couple of seasons ago in the Conference League, who are now in the Champions League qualifiers. So, this is a man who is been in charge not just of Nottingham Forest, but of another huge club in Greece. So he knows what he's doing. This isn't his first rodeo.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see in terms of how you recover from this, in terms of like how you launch yourself into a new season and genuinely compete again. How do you replace Morgan Gibbs-White? How do you replace Anthony Elanga?
I think you can replace Anthony Elanga.
How?
By buying a quick winger that gets assists and the odd goal. There's lots of them around in Europe. However, I think Morgan Gibbs-White, for the money that we have available for where we are as a club, as it stands, I think Morgan Gibbs-White is irreplaceable. You can replace him with talent that has the potential to achieve where Morgan Gibbs-White has got to, but I don't think you can buy a like-for-like, as Nottingham Forest, in Morgan Gibbs-White. What I would like to see the club do, and talkSPORT understands that there is significant interest from the club in James McAtee. He stepped up in the summer. He captained England to under-21's Euros glory. And you can't turn your nose up at that. It comes from good pedigree. A club at Manchester City that are producing fantastic talent, such as the influence Pep Guardiola's got there. So I want to see us get James McAtee in. I'd also like us to go for Harvey Elliott, because I think we're a club that needs a player, that has just a bit of a magician, because when we sit so low and we take and absorb all that pressure, we need that talent to be able to go and turn the very little possession we have into goals. And so having McAtee and Harvey Elliott would be an absolute brilliant business for Nottingham.
Yeah, I think that's what you need to do as well. I think you need to use this money, and I think even the way that you're phrasing it, even the way that you're talking about, might be detrimental to your ambitions. The word that you use there was irreplaceable regarding Morgan Gibbs-White.
Yeah,
that's damaging. It's a damaging word to use, and it isn't actually true. I know what you're saying, and you do get the feeling that some players are instrumental to their clubs, but we've seen great players leave great clubs, and those great clubs often rise in the absence of that player.
Well, we can get into semantics. Of course, you can replace him, and Forest will replace him, and I've got no doubt that Marinakis is going to put his hands deep in his pockets and replace him. But I don't think that we will buy a player that is as good as Morgan Gibbs-White right now. James McAtee has the potential. Harvey Elliott has the potential. He's probably closer.
Who can actually play that role that you could get? Like, it's a very specific role that Morgan Gibbs-White plays at Forest, isn't it? It's a conductor. It's that almost archetypal box-to-box midfielder. The light that doesn't really exist so much.
Exactly, and because both ways he's fantastic. Forest fans, let me know, who can Forest get in to replace Morgan Gibbs-White? 03717 223344 on WhatsApp, 81089 on messages. Right, we're heading back to SW19, where Lisa O'Sullivan has all of the latest.
We are in a second set tiebreak, and it's a real thriller with Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool leading by a set against Ricky Hijikata and David Pell. And the away side, should we say, because the all-British pair looking to score a victory here for the first time in more than 90 years, have come from behind, although we are looking at... it's just crazy exciting here, I have to say. So Cash and Glasspool 5-3 in the tiebreak. Let's keep this nice and clear. They have the mini break, and it is David Pell to serve. 3-5 down. As they're putting up a good fight against the Brits here, but this could go any way. We could be going to 3 sets.
Thank you, Lisa. Tense stuff at SW19. And when we last spoke to Sam Ellard, he was explaining how it's tense in this time in the Test match. What's the latest at the home of cricket, Sam?
India 279 for 5. Still work to do with the bat, trailing by 108 runs. It's been an action-packed afternoon session, which started with the India opener KR Rahul going to a 10th Test match 100. He got to 100, then he got out trying to drive a flighted wide ball from Bashir. Took the outside edge, caught a first slip. Since that wicket, Jadeja's moved on to 23. Nitish Kumar already has 5. Ollie Pope has spurned 2 glorious run-out chances to pick up another wicket or 2 for England. Of course, Rishabh Pant before lunch was run out for 74. Bryden Carr's coming into the attack. He found the outside edge of Ravi Jadeja's bat, but went through vacant second slip and then beat Jadeja on the outside edge. There are 3 overs to go until the new ball, and I'm guessing we'll see Jofra Archer and Chris Woakes come back into the attack. They called day 3 moving day, Max, and this game is moving along now quite quickly. India 280 for 5, trailing England by 107 runs.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Sam. We're going to head straight back to Wimbledon, where history has been made. Lisa O'Sullivan.
Game, set, match and championship to Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool, who are Wimbledon champions. The first all-British pair to win a Grand Slam men's doubles title since 1936. They've triumphed over Australia's Rinky Hijikata and David Pell of the Netherlands, and it's the first time either man has won a major title. They have been the team to beat this year. They won 16 matches from the 17 they played on grass, a tour leading 4 titles coming into Wimbledon, including an historic win at Queen's last month, and that was followed up by the Eastbourne Crown. It is a sensational day for the pair, who come through 6-2, 7-6.
Brilliant stuff from Lisa O'Sullivan at SW19 there. History made for Julian Cash and Lloyd Glass as they become men's doubles champions. Right, next up, we're going to preview an absolute belter in the Women's Euros as England take on Wales. You're listening to the Saturday session here on talkSPORT.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach for Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause.
They'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. He's become such an important player, an excellent talent.
Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings.
Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone.
Scottish Open, live on talkSPORT 2.
Sends it on its way and now into the cup this afternoon from 4.
And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. The scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, you know, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week.
Remember, Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitational side is live and exclusive on talkSPORT.
We're off and running, live on talkSPORT for Euro 2025. It is going to be quite a journey. Two left-footed shots, it's gone! What a performance from England! Epic in Zurich.
The goal has been given, and yes, Fishlock can celebrate again. Now Wales' iconic midfielder runs across to be mobbed by her teammates on the halfway line.
This is the main event.
Good afternoon, you're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory Jennings. We're going to get into that all-British showdown in the Women's Euros between England and Wales in a moment, but it's worth reminding you that the British pairing of Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool have just won the men's doubles at Wimbledon, and as it stands, in the cricket, it's 287 for 5. It's all on a knife edge in that third test between England and India. We'll get to Sam Ellard a little bit later on. But time now to get an update on the football with McDonald's. So time to welcome in to get a head-to-head here of talkSPORT pundits. We've got Tash Dowie, former Lioness striker who's covering all of England's duty in the Women's Euros, and Abigail Davis, talkSPORT's Wales correspondent. Great to have you on, girls. Now, we've got to get stuck into this. I mean, I'm going to start with you, Tash. The Netherlands had nothing on Serena Wiegman's side. I mean, it was a fantastic show and a great comeback after a really disappointing result against France. Are you expecting another thrashing for England, Tash?
What England's going to turn up? I think that's the biggest question. Yeah, I think the last 7 games, the pattern has been win-loss, win-loss. So if the pattern continues, they lose against Wales. But no disrespect to Wales, they have some top players, but quality-wise, I think England will just have too much depth as well. And I think that has been the issue for the Welsh team, is the depth of squad. So I see it being quite a comfortable win, to be honest. But I do think Wales will give England more of a fight than the Dutch do. Yeah,
it's going to be a great clash, and obviously these games they really do matter. Do you think that England could do something significant here? We saw England score loads of goals in the last game. If it goes well against Wales and we end up doing that again, that could almost set the tone as we go into the knockout stages, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think England have always been a team that have started tournaments slowly, and they did that against France. But I think that Dutch performance is so key, and I think then obviously hopefully getting a good performance, a good result against Wales, because then you're looking at Sweden, Germany, and that's not going to be an easy game for either of those. So when it gets to those knockout stages, it's going to be tough. But I think performance-wise, that is the key thing. Giving games time to players as well, which I think has been great to see the likes of Beaver Jones coming on, some of those other key players. So yeah, more of the same.
Abby, from a Welsh perspective, I mean, is there genuine hopes of a victory here? I know Wales are significant underdogs, but do you think that there's a realistic opportunity to get 3 points on the board?
Yeah, well, the main message coming out of the camp this week has been that it's not about putting in perfect performances. It has been a campaign about learning, growing and developing. We certainly saw that from match day 1 to game 2, didn't we? In the first game, I thought it was very naive, very inexperienced, and just didn't give a good account of what Cymru are capable of on the big stage. The party atmosphere has clearly already started here in St Gallen, but yeah, and then match day 2, it was a lot better, a lot braver in and out of possession. They pressed more intelligently. And I think regardless of the outcome, the main message coming from Rhian Wilkinson and the players this week is give a good account of yourself, leave everything on the pitch, and hopefully prevent England from progressing.
And Tash, in terms of the lineup, are we expecting to see England go unchanged? I think Ella Tooney's fit. Are you expecting her to go with the tried and tested formula that saw us play so well against the Dutch?
Yeah, I think that's always a question mark, is who is Serena going to pick. She doesn't make a lot of changes, but I think with regards to that performance against the Dutch, you can't change that team. It was spot on, really, every single one from the back to the front. So I think everyone deserves to keep their spot.
Abby, I mean, in terms of, you're absolutely right in sort of highlighting the fact that there's been a significant improvement just between game 1 and 2 for Wales, but just generally, the experience for the Welsh team, their first ever Euros, you've got to think that not only a great experience for those players and the likes of Jess Fishlake as well, legend of the game, but also the sort of impact that that's going to have just wider on the sport in Wales.
Yeah, it's about leaving the legacy, isn't it? And leaving the shirt in a better place than the likes of Jess Fishlock found it in. And that's certainly already the case. But as Tash has just mentioned, that Sarina Wiegman doesn't make too many changes. Not the same case for Rhian Wilkinson. So many question marks going into the press conference this afternoon. Is she going to stick with Sophia Middleton-Patel between the sticks? She was largely selected for Game 2 because of her superior distribution. There were elements of her game that were really, really strong. It was just those individual errors that were highlighted. So many things, though, to come out of that. Will we see Sophie Ingle get game time, start maybe in this final game, or what is likely to be the final game for Cymru in this campaign? So a lot of question marks to be decided, but that's something that I've quite liked about Rhian Wilkinson in her time as Wales manager. She isn't scared to change things around. It means that we have 26 players now who are capable, if they're called upon. We can change the tactics, we can change the formation, and we have the personnel to fit into that style. So that's certainly a positive for us going forward.
And Tash, just to follow on from that, may I ask, Sarina Wiegman, obviously we know what she's achieved. Obviously we know where she ranks into the sort of pantheon of great women's football managers. But off the back of the first game in this tournament, people were asking some questions. Off the back of the preparation for this tournament, people were asking some questions. Do you think that those questions have been put to bed off the back of that trouncing of the Dutch, or do you think that those questions are still relevant today?
I mean, who'd want to be a manager? It just blows my mind with regards to what she's done since she's come in, her record. And to be honest, you feel guilty to even question her as a manager with what she's done. And after the first performance, I think the frustrating thing is because we've seen the difference and how good they were against the Dutch compared to the French. I think that's more the frustration from an England fan. And especially because of what they've achieved now, you expect perfection nearly every game. But I think, look, Sarina's the best, I think, in the game as a player and as a manager. I think we're very lucky to have her. Again, I talk about my time playing for England. I wish I had been able to play under her. I think she's a manager I would have loved to have played under. And the players thrive. The players thrive under pressure, you know, and they did that the other day. And again, it would not surprise me if they went on and won this European Championship under her.
Yeah, look, it's incredibly exciting. I've got to ask, though, you know, we've got our England correspondent, our Welsh correspondent. Do you think it's going to be sort of, is there going to be a little bit of needle in the game? Surely you'd expect there's going to be sort of, you know, a lot of rivalry on the pitch, and we might have some sort of tasty challenges.
Yeah, well,
there's been needle just between us two in the build-up to this, to be honest.
I can tell.
I can fully, I'm leaving my elbow in. I can back that. I played with a lot of the Welsh players at Reading, at Liverpool. I know just how much beating England means to them. And like I said, I talked about it. Talent-wise, they might not be on the same level maybe as the Dutch, but fight-wise, 100% they would give up a harder fight. And I think that's why I always love watching the Welsh team. You've got to respect what they've achieved so far, and it won't be easy. They'll try to disturb England. You know, they'll make it nasty. They'll time-waste, whatever it takes, you know, to make sure England don't progress.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things. In the first half against France, we really did see that from Cymru. They were pressing, they were unsettling the France side and started asking a few questions. The main concern for me is if Wales get into those positions, sometimes the decision making lets them down a little. The passes, they overplay them. It's not quite as good as you see the other teams doing. You know, you see France getting forward and they're constantly getting to the byline. They're constantly testing the keeper. Cymru not quite at that level yet. So I think it's all about making the most of those opportunities when they do advance into the final third and give the defence a little bit of respite, because it is not going to be easy up against that onslaught of pressure.
Absolutely. I can't wait for that one.
I'm on England.
The Battle of the Brits. Thanks so much, guys. Absolutely great to have you on. Make sure you don't start fighting before kick-off tomorrow, please, because we've got to work. We've got. There we go. Hugs between Tash Dowie and Abby Davis, our Welsh and England correspondents, covering all of the action for the Women's Euros. A reminder, tomorrow, England versus Wales, final group game live over on talkSPORT 2. That was all thanks to McDonald's.
UEFA Women's Euro 2025 update on talkSPORT with McDonald's. Got Big McDonald's hunger? The new Big Arch is here. Available from 11 a.m. at participating restaurants.
OK, we're going to head back to Lords, the home of cricket, where Sam Ellard is watching day 3 of England against India.
And in the afternoon session, it is time for some drinks. And India go to drinks, 290 for 5, trailing by 97. The one wicket to fall in the afternoon session was KR for 100. Bashir, the bowler, lofted delivery outside his off stump, looking to drive to the outside edge, caught a first slip. So Ravi Jadeja has 26 to his name. Nitish Reddy has 13 to his name. There's been a couple of run-out opportunities that Ollie Pope didn't take. And yeah, these two batsmen don't look particularly comfortable at the crease. We had a good short spell from Jofra Archer to Nitish Reddy, where the batsman didn't look particularly comfortable. Cast found the outside edge of Jadeja's bat, went through vacant second slip. But 80 overs have been bowled in this innings, and you know what that means. That now means that the new ball is available for England. They shall take it, and the hard new ball, which England will hope might move a little bit more, and they hope they can get into this India middle to lower order quite quickly and try and wrap up this innings where England can have a first innings lead. India 290 for 5, Jadeja and Nitish Reddy at the crease. India trailing England by 97 runs.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Sam. You're listening to the Saturday Session live on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, and Rory Jennings. Next up, more transfer chat, including Jordan Henderson's impending move to Brentford. Good afternoon, how are we? You're listening to the Saturday Session with me, Max Scott. Sat alongside me is Rory Jennings. We've got loads of important transfer news to get through, but it's important also to remind you that the British pairing of Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool have just won the men's doubles at SW19, and as it stands, it's 291 for 5 in the cricket. Sam Ellard's been reporting saying England taking the new ball. Hopefully there'll be some movement for Jofra Archer with that new ball in the beating sun at the home of cricket. Right, we've been going to get some latest transfer news. We're going to talk about Jordan Henderson in a moment, but before, just a little bit earlier on in the show, we were talking about what's going on at Nottingham Forest regarding Morgan Gibbs-White. I've been asking you for your suggestions. And interestingly, a Sheffield United supporter has been in touch, and he says, as a Sheffield United supporter, as a club that utilises the loan market in the Championship, we see a lot of developing players come and go. You never fall in love with a lone player, but McAtee and Gibbs-White were different. They were so special, so committed to the cause, especially as lone players. You couldn't help but stand up and admire them. Truly special players. Of course, James McAtee being linked heavily with interest from Nottingham Forest and West Ham. For me, I think it's absolutely vital that Forest get him over the line as a replacement for Morgan Gibbs-White. Matt from Nottingham says, I tell you what though, Max, Ola Aina signing a new contract is massive. It's gone slightly under the radar with all this other stuff happening. Losing Aina from that changing room could have had a bigger impact than losing other players, in my opinion. It's a great shout. I mean, Ola Aina, by the way, Rory, ex-Chelsea Academy, looks like one of the best in the league.
It does it all so easily. It's also calm. It's like, it's very rare now that you get players that play like that. Smile on the face, doesn't seem fussed by it, but is as close to being the best fullback in the league.
I think he's up there.
He's up there, isn't he?
Got to be up
top 3 in his position.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think that's indicative of how successful Forest were defensive last season. They're absolutely unbelievable with Nico Williams, Murillo and Milenkovic. The fact that they haven't gone and they yet, but the fact that Williams and Aina have signed contract extensions, I think for Nuno will be massive, because that's his bread and butter.
Yeah,
isn't
absolutely.
It?
This is the conversation that you and I have had previously. I think off air. When you talk about Morgan Gibbs-White leaving, I do understand why it would hurt you so much, and I totally concede that he's an excellent player, and the fact that he was selected for England makes it even more painful, I'm sure. But in terms of Nuno Espirito Santo, the way that he likes to set up, what makes his team special? What made Nottingham Forest such a difficult proposition to beat and such a lethal force in the Premier League last year at various points? It was the back line.
Yeah.
I feel like Nuno Espirito, I understand why you would say that Morgan Gibbs-White leaving is the worst thing that could happen. I understand why you would say that he is irreplaceable. But I wonder if you were to pose the question to Nuno Espirito Santo and say to him, you're going to lose a key member of your team, I feel like he would say, as long as it isn't the back line, because that is the foundation for everything good that Nottingham Forest do.
It is the foundation. And if you look at Forest the season before, conceded the most set pieces, conceded the most points from winning positions, and then went the next season under Nuno with his defence, a full pre-season in the tank, went on to be one of the best defences in the league. So absolutely, great suggestions, great points there from our texters. But we're going to turn our attention now to Jordison, because he's left Ajax after the Dutch club agreed to end his contract a year early, and is reportedly set to join Brentford. Now, former Premier League manager Alan Pardew, talkSPORT's very own, was on with Jim White yesterday morning and was full of praise for that move.
Well, firstly, I think that's an inspired move, because, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings to a young group of players. They've always got players coming through. They're always signing young players normally. So, with Norgard going on to the Arsenal, it seems like a perfect replacement to me.
Rory, you and I, on air, off air, have been critical of the fact that Jordan Henderson was picked by Thomas Tuchel for the England squad. Of course, Jordan Henderson's not going to refuse that. It's nothing to do with him. But I would say, not for England for me, but for Brentford, I think that's an absolute coup bringing in Jordan Henderson. What do you think?
Not sure I agree with you. I'm not sure I agree with Alan Pardew either. I think that if he's being brought in order to elevate the experience and maybe help Keith Andrews out, be the leader in the dressing room, then maybe it makes sense. But if they are expecting him to turn in great performances, dominate midfields, they're in for a rude awakening, because I just don't think Jordan Henderson can do that anymore. Sunderland not signing Jordan Henderson, I think, was a shrewd move. I really do.
You don't think that would have been sort of, for the fans, for the club, having one of your own back at his boyhood club when they return to the Premier League after so long out, having that leadership with a load of young players in that squad? Do you not think that would have been a great move for Sunderland?
Look, maybe on some like poetic, empathetic level, maybe you could make a case for it.
Well, you were making the case at the top of the show, a poetic case about how Chelsea always win trophies, despite the fact the last 3 times you're at Wembley, you lost. And you were saying that's part of our history, it's part of our heritage, therefore we can go and beat PSG. So why does it apply why to Chelsea, but not Sunderland?
They're facts. Chelsea win silverware when the odds are most stacked against us. Chelsea shine when it's most difficult to do so. Certainly in the previous regime, at least. So they're just facts. Not Brentford signing Jordan Henderson. Is there a romance to it? I like Henderson for the record. I like him. I rate him very highly. I think he was one of the best captains that Liverpool have had in the Premier League era. I think a really good player.
You rate him, but you don't think that it's a good signing for Brentford?
No, it's not a good signing for him now. If they could sign Jordan Henderson in 2018, he's a good player. But they've lost Norgard and they're replacing him with Henderson. That's a downgrade. It's not a downgrade for the career. But you know when I talk about Jordan Henderson now and I say done, I say he's not a good player. He's not a player for the Premier League. People start telling me that he's won the Champions League. People start telling me that he was a captain of Liverpool when they had one of their finest seasons ever. That's all true. But Frank Lampard's a great player, the best player that's ever played in the Premier League, in my opinion. And yet you wouldn't say that he should be playing in midfield. Jordan Henderson is a spent force. Brentford have levelled down bringing Jordan Henderson in and losing Christian Norgard. That's not controversial, is it? Do you agree with that at least? Who's a better player today? Don't talk to me about the players.
Christian Norgard is a better player today.
So they've got worse.
Evidence in the fact that Arsenal haven't gone in for Jordan Henderson.
Of course they haven't.
But just because he's maybe not at the same level as Christian Norgard isn't to say that he's not going to be a really useful addition to what Keith Andrews is trying to do at Brentford. I just don't think it's a binary.
Can you help me understand it then?
Yeah.
Is the signing simply for the player that Jordan Henderson is? It's simply to play him in midfield. If there's other reasons to sign him, if he's maybe going to be the manager on the pitch, if he's maybe like going to learn from Keith Andrews and adopt maybe a managerial role, if there's something else going on, then maybe we can rationalise the signing.
I think
if
that
it's
is the
not,
case.
if it's literally we've lost Norgard and we need a midfielder, if they've decided that Jordan Henderson in 2025 is the midfielder to keep them in the Premier League, they're going down.
Well, I was just about to ask you. I mean, it's not just your criticism of them getting Jordan Henderson as a midfielder, but also Brian Mbeumo looks eventually to get over the line at Manchester United. Johan Visser is admired by Spurs, Forest, Newcastle. You'd think that he wants out as well. I think we understand he's quite keen for a move and to reunite with Thomas Frank. So do you think that Brentford are one of the favourites to go down? And if so, who do you think is the most likely promoted team to stay in the league? If
you're a fan of Leeds, Sunderland or Burnley, you need to look for somebody to take your place, right? You need to look, because we're always saying that the three that come up are the most at threat to go back down there, the most vulnerable, so somebody's going to need to take their place. If you're a fan of Leeds United, you go, okay, we're going to stay up, so someone else is going to have to go down. You need to identify that club. You need to find a club in the Premier League that's been in the Premier League for a fair while now that has a chink in their armour. Brentford are that club.
Do you think it's good for football if Brentford are replaced by a Leeds or a Sunderland?
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant for Brentford.
Why are you so sort of anti smaller clubs and pro?
I just like clubs with big support. I like clubs that look. Sometimes anyone that goes to football regularly will have to concede that this is true. Going to football on a regular basis can be a chore. It's expensive. The atmosphere is flat. Stadiums are sanitised. When you go to Ellen Road as a Chelsea fan, there's a spring in your step. When you go to Stamford Bridge as a Chelsea fan and Leeds United are coming. Like I remember when we actually played them the final day that the year they got relegated, first time round, they came to Stamford Bridge. Mate, there was like 10,000 of them in Camden Town. Like it's proper. It's a proper club. It's a proper day out. Oh, when Brentford come, you get in there 5 minutes before the game starts, you leave a bit early. It's Brentford.
Sing Hey Jude at the G-Tech.
You want proper teams, proper support, proper history, proper rivalry. Sunderland brings something to the Premier League. Leeds United brings something to the Premier League. Jordan Henderson playing for Brentford, I mean, who cares? Like, come on.
I must say, I understand why Brentford are being picked to struggle next season, particularly because they've hired their set-piece coach. But what I would say is that Brentford are a club that know how to bring in the right players, and I bet they've got their eyes on some talent that nobody's ever heard of, and they're going to turn out to be absolute world beaters and then keep them up for another season.
Right, play a quick game with me. Jordan Henderson on his best day. Jordan Henderson, 2019, something like that. When Jordan Henderson was at his pomp, what was he good at? What was his major attribute?
Standards on the pitch, breaking down play, good in a tackle, good passer of the ball.
So when you say good passer, I would say that on the ball was one of his weaker qualities. He was a wonderful player for Liverpool. I'm not taking anything away from Henderson. I loved him during that period where he was doing very well for England. But the things that he was good at, he's now not going to be so good at. and he was never particularly good on the ball anyway.
Well, we will see. Brentford fans, get in touch. 03717 22 Do you share Rory's reservations about getting in the England midfielder, former Liverpool captain, at your club? Are you confident of staying up? Do you think the criticism of Keith Andrews is too much? Let us know. Right, we're going to quickly head back to Lords, where Sam Allard is watching the cricket. What's the latest, mate?
India 299 for 5, just trailing England now by 88 runs. This 6th wicket partnership is worth 45 runs. Ravi Jadeja once again with some important runs at number 6, not out on 31. He frustrated England on a couple of occasions at Edgbaston with the bat. Nitish Kumar Reddy not out on 17, so just the 1 wicket to fall in this afternoon session for England. It was early in the afternoon session. KR got to 100 and then got out. England have taken the new ball. Carson Archer with ball in hand. Bryden Cast with a full delivery to Nitish Kumar Reddy that moved away. The batsman went for an expansive drive, just missed the outside edge, and then Jofra Archer got one to Jadeja, which the batsman looked to work into the leg side. A leading edge which just fell short of mid-off. So England looking for this 6th wicket. India 299 for 5, trailing England by 88 runs.
Thanks, Sam. Great stuff. Right, up next, we're going to get more reaction from Down Under live with our rugby correspondent Alfie Reynolds as the British and Irish Lions got off to an absolute flyer.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause. Former Forest striker Rob Earnshaw.
Let's face it, they'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. That's what I believe. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. I think he's become such an important player, an excellent talent. And on top of that, he's also their captain, the leader. And he's still a young man with not reached his full potential.
Forest have already lost Anthony Elanga to Newcastle. Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager, Alan Pardew.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings. You know, with Norgard going on to the Arsenal, it seems like a perfect replacement to me.
It's our understanding Henderson will opt for the red and white stripes of Brentford after leaving Ajax. Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone before a minute's silence prior to kick-off. All players will wear black armbands and the teams will lay wreaths. And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. Obviously, he didn't look great on against the Brumbies, but actually, the scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week, and then it'll be a little bit of a waiting game in terms of whether he's available for the first test.
He'd been widely tipped for a test starting place when he picked up the injury in the win over the Brumbies on Wednesday. Remember, Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitational side is live and exclusive on talkSPORT.
Good afternoon, how are we on this sunny Saturday? By the way, absolutely sweltering coming in on the tube here in London. You're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, and broadcaster and Chelsea fan Rory Jennings here on talkSPORT. Earlier, you heard the British and Irish Lions beat the Australia and New Zealand invitational side 48-0. We'll be reacting to the game with our reporter Alfie Reynolds very shortly. At Wimbledon, British pair Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool won the men's doubles, while the women's singles final is coming up at 4 p.m. We'll speak to Lisa O'Sullivan very shortly. And what's the latest at the cricket, home of cricket, Sam Ellard?
India 301 for 5. Jadeja has 32. Reddy has 18. England looking for the 6th wicket with the new ball. Archer's just bowled a brilliant Yorker to Nitish Reddy. He wanted the LBW, given not out. Replay showed the ball was doing a little bit too much, just going down the leg side. Another run-out opportunity for England. That's been the 3rd one in this afternoon session. But India are fighting hard. 6th wicket partnership worth 47 runs. India 301 for 5.
Brilliant stuff, Sam. He'll be keeping us updated throughout the day. This is the Saturday session on talkSPORT. Okay, delighted to say now we are going to look back at a convincing win for Andy Farrell and the British and Irish Lions with talkSPORT's rugby correspondent down under, Alfie Reynolds. How are you, Alfie, mate?
Yeah, Max, very well, thank you, mate. Here at the Adelaide Oval, which is now basically empty. The rugby posts have come down behind me. The AFL posts are getting put back up. But job done for the Lions, and we move on to the Test week.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, I am a keen listener of the Lions Uncaged podcast with you and Topsy Ojo. And I was hearing you speaking before the game, talking about how this was potentially the toughest test ahead of the series against the Wallabies, purely because the invitational side had some real test-hardened players in there. You know, it's not a domestic squad. Yes, they only had 5 days together, but they had some proper players in there. So would you say that this was a step forward for Andy Farrell?
Yeah, I'd rather you didn't bring up my bad predictions there, Max. We'll add that to the list, shall we? But yeah, it was one of the... in all honesty, you're right. I looked at the names on the team sheet and I thought this could be a real challenge for the Lions. And the reality was it was a team that has come together in the last week, and we saw that. They lacked cohesion. So it wasn't the challenge that the Lions necessarily would have been expecting, or I was certainly expecting. I think they would have liked a much tougher test, actually, here today. But you've got to give them credit to nil your opposition, to get the job done. They were comfortable. They did look better. They'd cleaned up some of the areas, in particular at the breakdown that we saw midweek against the Brumbies. So it's always the challenge for the Lions when they come on these tours, in particular when they come to Australia. The tour games, the opposition they play, it's very hard to judge how good they are ahead of the Test series because the opposition they're playing aren't necessarily that great. So job done. Are they prepared to face the Wallabies? Genuinely, we'll find out next Saturday.
And Owen Farrell made his first appearance, didn't he? Do you expect him to play in that game? What did you make of his first appearance?
I actually thought he was really good, Rory. I mean, look, he's come into the team, he's had a poor season in France, he's had injuries, his form hasn't been great. He looked really sharp when he came off the bench. I don't necessarily expect him... I don't think he won't start the first test. That would really surprise me. I mean, I suppose he could, but that would surprise me. I think there's a chance he's involved on the bench. And then the Lions also have this tour game in between the first and the second test. So in Melbourne. So they've got the first test in Brisbane next Saturday. They then travel to Melbourne. Midweek in Melbourne, they've got another tour game, another friendly before the second test. So I wonder whether we'll see Farrell in that game to maybe tee him up to take part in the second test. But I actually thought he looked really sharp. I do think there's a chance he's on the bench in the first test.
Love to see that, Alfie, particularly considering, the criticism towards Andy and Owen Farrell around his sort of call-up again. I just thought was a little bit too much. It's nice to see Owen Farrell with a great performance, but... I mean, we always talk about the amount of injuries that occur in a Lions tour. As they say, you can't make an omelette without cracking eggs. And there's yet more news. Gary Ringrose is going to be missing the first test. And then there was Luke Cowan-Dickie as well was being treated, I think, for a nasty head injury. And I've heard that the PA announcer in Australia was playing Sweet Caroline while he was being treated. What on earth was happening there?
Yeah, so this is something that I've only become more aware of actually post-game. I obviously had my headphones on and was listening to Andrew McKenna and Ben Kay on our commentary, and then I've seen it afterwards that apparently Sweet Caroline was playing whilst Luke Cowan-Dickie was down. He was being put on a stretcher. He had to be taken off on a kind of golf cart to get him off the pitch, which is obviously really not nice to see. In all honesty, Max, I suspect this is kind of an accidental someone dropping the ball rather than a deliberate kind of nasty, inconsiderate, deliberately playing the song. I think, as they always do when there's breaks in play, they play music. They did on this occasion once again, and perhaps didn't quite think about the context. There's a player here that might be seriously injured. I don't think there's anything sinister in it, personally. But on Luke Cowan-Dickie, it's almost certain he will be ruled out of the first test, and the Lions are going to have to call someone up in his place because they'll need them at least for training. They probably won't come in and feature in the first test. They've still got Dan Sheehan and Ronan Kelleher, who are the fit players in that position, so they'll probably be involved in the test team. But you need someone else in training because Luke Cowan-Dickie will have to go back through the head injury assessment and the return to play protocol. So good chance that could be Jamie George, who in a few hours' time is set to play for England against Argentina, or Dowie Lake, the Welshman. And Wales won today, finally ending their losing streak against Japan. So Dowie Lake, from a geographical point of view, would be the easier selection. Jamie George trained with the Lions before their game in Dublin against Argentina, so he might be the next cab off the rank. Does geography come into it? I think we're either going to see Jamie George or Dowie Lake called up to the squad.
Right, Alf, this time next week, the first test against Australia will be about to start. Yeah. How are we set to face them?
Well, do you know what, Rory? As I mentioned just now, that the fascinating thing about this series is there is an element of the unknown, which is quite normal for a Lions tour. You always feel like the Lions are a little bit undercooked here, and they haven't been incredible. They've won all their games, but they've been a bit scrappy. So I don't think you can confidently say that the Lions are absolutely ready to rip into it. The problem is the Wallabies aren't that great a team either. We saw them play against Fiji. They won. They weren't all that convincing. They're ranked about 8th in the world. So this isn't a vintage Wallabies side, which makes it quite hard to call. If we were playing New Zealand or South Africa, you'd struggle to make the Lions favourites. I think because it's the Wallabies, the Lions will still be the favourites. The best thing I think for the series would be Australia win that first test, because I think that sets it up brilliantly, having come into it with people expecting the Lions to win 3-0. So if you're asking for a prediction, Rory, I tell you what, I'll stick my neck out and say the Wallabies are going to win the first test. I'd imagine the bookmakers are going to have the Lions favourites.
Your prediction's been all over the place, Alfie. That's dreadful.
Yeah, I know, mate. Tell me about it. What's that? Hey, you're on the way to the bookies now to back the Lions after that, aren't you?
As well, Alfie's been speaking to Lions head coach Andy Farrell after that big win.
Congrats on the win. As far as a final test before the test series begins goes, in terms of the performance and also the challenge you faced, how happy are you?
Very pleased, in fact, to finish off what's been a tough enough block for all sorts of reasons, to get to this point now where we get to a point where we came over to face, and that's the test series.
really proud of everyone, not just the players but the staff, etc. for getting us all to this point. So it's nice to get a good performance, I thought, and then roll into a test series with in a nice shape, really, as a squad, in regards to where our game's at and our mentality and how much we've got to improve, etc.
Are you going to be calling someone up to cover for Luke Cowan-Dickie, and what's going to be the process on that?
It looks like that, yeah. So we'll see how things pan out over the next 24 hours, but yeah. Given the important week you've got coming up, is that simply going to be next cab off the rank, or is geography possibly going to come into it for who you call up? The right person for the squad, because we're down to the business end, aren't we? So there's a lot of rugby to be played.
How's Gary Ringrose?
Yeah, Gary unfortunately had a delayed reaction. He had headaches for a day, and it carried on the next day. So he went through concussion protocols and failed those, unfortunately. So he's unfortunately for Gary and for us, he's 12 days. So that puts him out for the first test, but puts him back in for the midweek game after the first test.
It's tough for him because he's been playing pretty well on the tour.
Yeah, but you don't mess around with these things, do you? So it is what it is, and it's unfortunate for him and for everyone else. But he's in good spirits anyway, so we crack on.
And what's the process from now, Andy, in terms of meetings, discussions, and naming the test team?
Well, we've got a normal week as we've all been craving, including you lads, I've no doubt as well. So we've got a normal week coming up. We travel tomorrow, and then we train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll get to a performance day on Wednesday, and everyone will know where they're at. But I just said in there to the players that selection is going to be unbelievably difficult. That's how it should be. But I know that we've got a group that's as cohesive as it gets, and they'll all row in together no matter what, because it takes like I said during the week, it takes a squad to win a series.
That is British and Irish Lions head coach Andy Farrell, who's been speaking to our rugby correspondent Alfie Reynolds, who's still on the line. Alfie, he mentioned there about the relief almost. You could hear it, you could see it in his sort of countenance, the relief of having just a normal week ahead. That's going to be huge, isn't it? Just in terms of preparation, in terms of rest ahead of the massive first test against the Wallabies.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 cities, 5 games in the last 2 weeks, and whenever we've been speaking to a coach or a player, they've all basically been saying, we don't have time to train. Speaking to Ben White the other day before this game, who started his first match for the Lions tonight, played well actually, but when I asked him what he's made of the tour, he said, I thought we'd have more time to actually train. They haven't been able to.
Yeah.
This next week is massive for them. I think it's absolutely huge for the development of what they're going to be able to hopefully achieve, and to put themselves in a position where they're able to really attack that first test. And I think they'll be absolutely loving it. It's part of a Lions tour. You're up, you're travelling, you're seeing different cities, you're playing different teams. But in terms of preparing for that test series, being in one place, settling down, just being in a bit more of a normal routine, it's a massive week for the Lions. So yeah, we all decamp to Brisbane tomorrow, and then we'll be there for the next week. We'll be chatting to the players, building up to that first test, the business end of the tour. It's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Alfie, thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Pleasure, lads. Thanks very much.
That is talkSPORT's rugby correspondent Alfie Reynolds, who is our man down under. And our man at the home of cricket at Lords is Sam Ellard. He's watching England against India. What's the latest, Sam?
Well, the latest is this 6-wicket partnership is just starting to frustrate England. India 303 for 5, trailing by 84. England broke the dangerous partnership up between Pant and KR Rahul. Pant went just before lunch, KR Rahul went just after lunch, but Jadeja and Nitish Kumar already frustrating England. Partnership worth 49 runs. Jadeja, who got runs in the last test match, is not out on 33. Nitish not out on 19. England have taken the new ball, yet to pick up a wicket with it, although Chris Boak, which has been beaten the outside edge of Nitish Reddy on a couple of occasions in this previous over. England remarkably have had four run-out opportunities in this afternoon session. 2 fell to Ollie Pope, none were taken. Just a word on Shoaib Bashir, currently being assessed by the medical team after taking a blow to his little left finger when he tried to take a catch off his own bowling when Jadeja drove one back down the ground. Let's hope that's nothing too serious and he's back out sooner rather than later. Ben Stokes into the attack. This new ball, only 7 overs old. Let's hope England can pick up a wicket and break this partnership. India 303 for 5, trailing by 84 runs.
Great stuff, Sam. Thank you. He'll be keeping you across the latest updates at Lords. Hopefully that new ball starts doing some bits for Ben Stokes and the boys. Right, next up, we're going to be asking the question, who is going down next season? Good afternoon, how are we? You're listening to the Saturday session here on talkSPORT with me, Max Scott, and Rory Jennings, who's just rushed back into the studio. What have you been doing, mate?
I mean, he came into the bathroom and shouted my name, trying to hurry me along.
Right, just a reminder, of course, that at Wimbledon we have got the women's finals. We'll be getting an update from Lisa O'Sullivan a little bit later on in the show, but of course the British pair of Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool have just won the men's doubles, and currently in the cricket India are 306 for 5. Jadeja and Reddy just frustrating England's bowlers, who've had a new ball for 7-8 overs now, and that's on a knife edge there in the third test at Lords. Of course, Sam Ellard will be bringing us some updates later on in the show, but we're now asking the question, who's in danger of being relegated from the Premier League next season? Get your text coming in 03717 22 33 44 810 89 as well. let's have a look at some of the odds from Betfair. These are the relegation odds. So I want to get your take on this, Rory, because you were speaking quite strongly earlier about Brentford and the risks that they have. This is how Betfair have got it. Sunderland 2-9. Burnley 7-10, Leeds 17-20. So Leeds, the bookies' favourites of those three clubs to stay up. And of course, the last 2 seasons of 3 promoted clubs have all gone down. And so for me, it's about time we had that. I mean, the Premier League already is feeling like it's becoming a closed shop, and I think it's about time somebody broke through that. But Brentford, Rory's favourites to go down are 7-2. Wolves then are 7-2 as well. West Ham 6-1. Then Fulham, Everton, Palace all 7-1. Bournemouth and Forest 9-1. A lot of different clubs there, Rory. I want you, it's very early on, we've not seen a kick of the ball yet.
Yep.
But who are your 3 going down? And you're a man with a checkered history, let's say, of predictions. So let's just go with your relegation ones. Let's get this on right now, Rory.
That was friendly fire. Unnecessary friendly fire from you. You could have just asked me my prediction. There was absolutely nothing in it for you to bring up my previous...
I've got to, mate. I've got to hold you to account sometimes, mate. I'll hold you to account.
Okay, right. Let's work it out. I mean, logically, even though I don't want this to be the case, if we're doing this as considered as possible, it's very unlikely that more than one of the 3 teams that come up will survive. I would love all 3 of them to survive, to be totally honest with you, but I feel like one is the most that will be able to make it, which means that there'll be 2 promoted teams that will go down. I feel like Burnley therefore will go, and sadly, and I hope this to be wrong, I think Sunderland will go, which means Leeds survive. So there is 1 place up for grabs, and that means that 1 team who has been part of the established Premier League for a fair while are potentially going to go. Out of the teams that could go, I feel like there's only 3. I think Brentford might. I feel like Wolverhampton Wanderers might. And weirdly, this might sound a little bit left field to you, but I feel like West Ham might.
No, I think that's a good shout. I mean, they had just sort of the most flat season last season. They've lost Mohamed Kudus.
It's Potter for me. It's the manager.
And look, if Forest get their main man, which is James McAtee, I know West Ham are interested as well. All of a sudden, it's no wonder that they're currently 6th bottom in the odds. I certainly think that West Ham fans will be worried at the minute. Of course, there's a long time left to go in the transfer window, but of course, pre-season's already underway. Lots of teams, are already back, and so I do worry about West Ham.
But out of the three that are Premier League clubs, Wolves, Brentford, West Ham are the most likely to survive. And I think Brentford are the most likely to go.
I hate to say, Roy, but I completely agree with you. I think you look at Burnley, they lost Egan Riley, a real key part of their defence last season. Of course, they had a terrific season in the Championship. I do think Sunderland are dark horses. We're going to talk after the break a little bit with somebody in the know at Sunderland. They've spent over £100 million. I think it's the right thing to do. They've did what Forest did and show absolute ambition to say, we clearly need to revamp things and we're going to go and back ourselves, buy a load of players. Looking forward to speaking to him a little bit later on. So I think that Sunderland could be up there. And so maybe we will be sort of blessed and you'll see Leeds and Sunderland, 2 massive clubs, traditionally top-flight clubs, just sort of disrupt things a little bit. And then if that's the case, I would say Burnley, Brentford, and then I'd have to say West Ham. We've got Wolves 7-2 here, but I thought they ended the season fantastically.
Yeah, they did,
and I think they'll continue. Continue to improve. It would be wonderful permanently as well.
It would be wonderful if the 3 that came up could survive, because I really like Scott Parker. I really like Scott Parker, so I'd love to see him manage to survive. I'd love Sunderland to be in the Premier League. I think the Premier League is a better place having Sunderland in it. And Leeds United are a Premier League club. They should be in the Premier League. Again, the Premier League is a richer place, culturally richer place, having Leeds United as part of it. So it would be wonderful if the 3 that came up could survive. If you hold me to account here, I'm going to say that 2 will go down and Brentford will join them.
There you go. Rory Jennings says Sunderland, Burnley and Brentford are going down. Decent for Leeds fans. They're, of course, investing as well. They've got Red Bull behind them. They've stuck with Daniel Farke. I mean, I think it'd be great. I love playing against Leeds. I went there. Forest actually lost that season. We almost went down with Steve Cooper. But yeah, just cracking atmosphere and the sort of club that you think they belong in the Premier League. Right, we're going to head back to Lords where Sam Ellard is watching the cricket. It's very tense, very close between England and India. Sam, there's still no breakthrough.
Yeah, no breakthrough, and this partnership continues to grow and continues to frustrate England. India now 311 for 5. The partnership for the 6th wicket worth 57 runs. Jadeja's got 37. Nitish Reddy has 23. When England dismissed KR Rahul with the score at 254 for 5. The new ball wasn't too far away. England would have been really confident of wrapping up the sort of middle to lower order relatively easily. But these two are frustrating England. The new ball now was 9 overs old, and just a little slight lull in proceedings. Ben Stokes has brought himself into the attack. We have got 11 minutes until tea on day 3. England will love 1 wicket to go into the tea break as Ben Stokes comes charging in from the pavilion end to Jadeja. A drive into the offside, no run. India 311 for 5.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Sam. As you've just heard, we've been speaking about relegation odds. I've got a slight feeling that Sunderland could well do it. They've been ambitious this summer, and next up we are going to take a closer look at the big spending with Northern Echo's football writer Dominic Shaw. You're listening to the Saturday Session on talkSPORT.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause.
They'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. He's become such an important player, an excellent talent.
Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. OK, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings.
Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone before a minute's silence prior to kick-off. All players will wear black armbands and the teams will lay wreaths. And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. The scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week.
Remember Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitation.
Good afternoon, how are we? You're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory Jennings. On this show, we've been going over to Wimbledon, where the British pairing of Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool won the men's doubles. We'll be building up shortly with Lisa O'Sullivan to the women's finals. Iga Swiatek against Amanda Anisimova. But just before the break, me and Rory were discussing relegation odds, and we were discussing Sunderland's big summer spending. Now, delighted to say that we are going to hear from Dom Shaw, the Northern Echoes football writer, who is the man in the know. Dom, how are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, really well. Now, we'll get to the summer spending in a moment, but as I understand, it was meant to be the Sunderland first team playing 2 pre-season friendlies today, but the academy ended up playing against Gateshead. What's happened there?
Yeah, so for the opening pre-season friendly of the summer, they always split, or ordinarily split the first team over 2 games, Gateshead and South Shields. But this season, that was the plan this season, but then on Thursday night, Sunderland put a statement out to say that Gateshead's pitch had been deemed unplayable, really, by both clubs. So they had to play the Gateshead game at Hebburn, and they decided to play a development squad there, which it was very much under 21s and a load of fringe players who are going to be allowed to leave this summer. And then the first team, I'm at Shields here on a... it's not very often you get days like this in the northeast, and it's a strong squad here today. Habib Diarra, one of the new signings, is here, and then the vast majority of the stars from last season. So it'll be good to see how they fare today.
So Dominic, have you been at both games? Have you been able to actually double drop both on the same day?
I'd love to say yes, but when I'd seen it was the development squad playing in the first game today, I decided to have the morning at home with my little boys in the garden. So this is my first. Had they split the squad, we normally do both, but because it was just the young lads in the first game at Hebburn, I decided to get here earlier and just do this one.
Fair play, Dom. I do not blame you there one bit. Now, can you let us know? You said one of the new signings is in action today. How much have Sunderland spent this summer? And can you just talk to us a little bit about who those key signings are?
Well, it's beyond 100 million already.
Wow.
Habib Diarra's the one today. As well as that, there's Noah Sadiq who's coming. Enzo Lefebvre, which was obviously done after Sunderland had won promotion because that was an obligation in the loan move from January. Simona Dingra signed this week. Chemsdean Talby signed this week, and then Reinaldo Mandava, the left back from Atletico Madrid. And Sunderland are by no means finished yet. They still want a centre forward, they still want a centre half, they still want a goalkeeper. We always knew it was going to be a busy summer, but I think even those connected with Sunderland have been taken aback by just how decisive they've been, how emphatic the signings have been, really. And then I know it's kind of so easy to throw away to throw out kind of statement signings lines this season, but nowadays. But they have beaten several clubs to several of the signings. Leeds wanted 2 or 3 of the lads who've come in. Brentford have been linked with the club. A few. There were several clubs overseas involved. There's a real feeling here. Clearly, the proof will always be in the results and how Sunderland fare in the Premier League. But there's a real feeling, and several of the signings have said it, that Sunderland are building something exciting.
And Simon, Dominic, it feels like Simon Adingra is the jewel in the crown of the signings. How high are the hopes for him next season?
Well, they really wanted him in January. So Tommy Watson, obviously, as you'll know, has gone to Brighton. That deal, Brighton have tried to sign Watson a couple of times. Tried in January, failed. When they tried very late in the January window, Sunderland had kind of said, well, if you want Watson, we want Adingra the other way. Didn't happen. The deal for Watson was done a month or 2 later, and then obviously Watson scores the last second goal at Wembley. So the Adingra one is a deal that Sunderland have been keen to do for a year and more. Now, obviously, when you're playing in the Championship, it's a harder deal to do. So there's real satisfaction there.
Yeah.
But there's equally as much of a feeling that they've really found and landed someone special in the likes of Diarra, Siddiqui, Talby, who, although they're only 2021, have all been playing regularly in Belgium or France and arrive, having turned down the opportunity to play Champions League football in Talby's shoes. So, Adingra, I think, is probably the most recognisable, but there's an excitement as well in all of the others, and a feeling that although they're only 20, that they'll come in ready to make an instant impact.
Dom, I've got to ask you, but you talk about the feeling in the city, the feeling up there. It reminds me of my club, Nottingham Forest, when we got promoted. We had about 13 players left in the squad because it was all loans, and we needed to spend that money. And I, for one, think Sunderland should be praised for spending that much money and taking that risk to try to sort of secure their status as a Premier League club. And so I love to see that, because you do sometimes see a lot of criticism online as if, who are Sunderland to spend that money? Well, they're well within their right, and they're a massive club, and they should be doing that to give them the biggest chance. I have been hearing a lot around the new director of football. Tell me if I pronounce it wrong, but Florent Gisolfi. Can you tell me a little bit about him and sort of who he is and the kind of impact he's making at the club?
Well, that's the other interesting thing, because when you speak to kind of club officials, those high up at the club this summer, they've been keen to stress right from the start. But at the start of the summer, it's only words, isn't it? But we've seen it with actions that the plan this summer was to upgrade, to scale up, was the words one used, across the board, on the pitch and off the pitch. So there's been multi-million pound investment in the stadium and the academy. And then, clearly there's been the arrival of Florent Gisolfi as well as director of football, which again turned heads a little bit, because Christian Speakman here, the sporting director, has been hailed understandably for the job he's done. And Sunderland really have been quite bold with the recruitment, with their strategy over the course of the last couple of years. They've had a team of kids. Last season it was a team of 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Joe Bellingham was one of the more experienced players in the team come the end of last season. But again, the feeling was Gisolfi, extremely highly rated on the continent. Someone, Regis Lebris, the head coach, knows well from the time together at Lorient. Strong contacts in Belgium and France and other nations where Sunderland are trying to do a lot of the business. And the feeling was, if we have the chance to bring someone like this in, it's only going to benefit us, and we do it. And the talk this week about trying to improve the boardroom function as well as the squad on the pitch. So really it's early stages, and again, this is all exciting, but September, October, let's see how Sunderland are faring then. The results will always be the judgment, won't they? But it feels like Sunderland I agree with you. I think they should be applauded for the decisiveness and the bravery, really, because it's so easy now, isn't it, to go up to the Premier League and almost think, well, even if we come back down, we're going to pocket whatever we get out of it. We're going to be better placed to come back up the next year. The other thing Sunderland are saying is that their kind of vision is to be a top 10 Premier League club in 5 years' time. Now, if that means spending another season in the Championship between now and then so be it. If they do, clearly they don't want to, but if they do suffer relegation, then they believe they're well placed to come back up and then be better placed to kick on the next time. So, there's a clear vision here, and after some rotten years, to be fair, some rotten years and some nightmare results and some nightmare memories, you can understand, there's a real buzz around the city.
It's great to hear, Dominic. Great to hear. I really am happy to hear that. In terms of staying up, though, I mean, I want you to stay up, but I feel like, look, I don't have a dog in the fight, really. I feel like it's unrealistic. Is there a world where you can do it?
This is the thing. So, kind of my feeling when Sunderland went up was, even if you think, the likes of Chris Regan and all the other stars, Sunderland have got young players with the best years ahead of them, plus the signings. So even if you think they're good enough to go up, I kind of feel who's going to go down? The gap's so big now. Who out of the sides that stayed up last season is going to go down? Well, maybe this is kind of a bit of wishful thinking, but I suppose there's a bit of uncertainty around Brentford after the summer they've had. West Ham, there's still a bit of uncertainty. Yeah. Maybe from Wolves, you obviously lost a couple of key players. Can they adapt? I think what you'd say is all those clubs I've mentioned there are still streets ahead of Sunderland, or were at the end of last season. It is still a massive, massive ask for Sunderland to stay up. But I think they're better placed now, or it feels like they're better placed now than they were a month ago. Yeah. And that's all you can ask, really, isn't it?
You're absolutely right, Dom. Look, and I just think Sunderland ought to be praised for how bold they've been, going in there saying that they want to be a top 10 club in the next 5 years, spending 100 million plus. I think it's great to see. Dom Shaw, absolute pleasure and a real great, helpful insight into Sunderland, mate. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Cheers. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, man. That's Dom Shaw, the Northern Echo's football writer, giving us, as I say, brilliant analysis and insight into what's going on at Sunderland. If you're a Sunderland fan, incredibly exciting, and no wonder there's a real feeling of hope that they can do it next season. Right, we're heading back over to Lords, where Sam Allard's been watching. We're at tea, aren't we now, Sam?
Yeah, time for a cup of tea and a couple of scones, I think, Max. And India go to tea on 316 for 5, trailing England by 71 runs. So just the 2 wickets for England today. India resuming this morning on 145 for 3. Rishabh Pant would run out final ball of the morning session. The afternoon session started with KL Rahul going to his 10th Test match 100. He then got himself out on exactly 100 runs. A flighted wide ball from Bashir. The KL Rahul looked to drive, took the outside edge, caught a first slip by Harry Brook, and at that point, with the score on 254 for 5, and with the new ball not too far away, England would have been pretty confident to get into India's lower order in the afternoon session. But they've been frustrated because the 6-wicket partnership is going strong. Partnership worth 62 runs. Ravi Jadeja, the experienced all-rounder, has got 40 runs to his name. Nitish Kumar already not out on 25. There were four different run-out opportunities in the afternoon session for England. None taken, 2 golden ones in particular for Ollie Pope. England took the new ball. It's now 11 overs old. There was a couple of occasions that Bryden Cast and Chris Wokes beat the outside edge of Nitish Kumar Reddy's bat, but the 2 batsmen of the crease have fought hard this afternoon, and India are edging closer and closer to England's first innings total. At tea on day 3, India 316 for 5, trailing by 71 runs.
Thank you, Sam. Let's hope that Ben Stokes and the boys get a nice British builder's tea down their neck and then come back, get a breakthrough. Jofra Archer with that newish ball. I'm very hopeful that's going to happen. Right, next up, we're going to be looking ahead to the women's singles final at Wimbledon with Lisa O'Sullivan. You're listening to the Saturday session on talkSPORT. Good afternoon, this is the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory Jennings. We heard earlier on the show, didn't we, two Brits, Julian Cash and Lloyd Glasspool, winning the men's doubles. We'll be speaking to Lisa O'Sullivan shortly ahead of the women's final. That's going to be an absolute blockbuster. And in the cricket, it's currently tea time. England still trying to get a breakthrough. India 300 odd for 6. And don't forget that the Scottish Open is live on talkSPORT 2 today and tomorrow from 4 till 8 p.m. with Brits Rory McIlroy and Matt Fitzpatrick on the charge ahead of next week's Open, which will also be live on talkSPORT 2. But now let's turn our attention to Wimbledon, with the women's final also starting at 4 p.m. Delighted to say that we're joined by talkSPORT's tennis correspondent Lisa O'Sullivan, who you'll have heard all week, the past couple of weeks at SW19. How are you, Lisa?
I've got green feet. I think they've grown into the grass.
I don't blame you. I mean, it's not a bad gig though, particularly with how the weather's been. Just before we get into the semi-final, do you think that's sort of changed the way, because it's been so hot? There's been you know next to no rain. Do you think that sort of changed the way that the game's been played, or changed the fortune of some players? We've seen so many seeded players out early. Do you think that's got anything to do with the weather?
Yeah, potentially. The courts have been playing slightly differently, and as a result the balls have been playing differently. One of the things that some of the players were saying was that they're fluffing up much quicker, which means that they actually slow up. And the thing about grass court tennis is it's fast, and with the balls slowing up, those big hitters have been staying in the rallies longer. So that has been one of the things. But one of the things they do meticulously here at Wimbledon is measure how thirsty the grass is, what kind of tender care the grass needs, and it's really entertaining actually at the end of the night. Last night we were watching them water centre court before they put the sprinklers on. They actually had a team of the court attendants holding the yellow hose, but it wasn't allowed to touch the grass, so there was about 15 of them holding up this giant yellow hose while the head greensman, as it were, at the front is just watering select parts of the court that needed it most before the big slosh came on a little bit later. So it's just wonderful to watch how they do it. You know, on day one I was seeing a guy, I've never seen this particular job before. He had a bucket and he had a stick that had one of those looked like a washing up sponge on it, and he was going up and down the lines to make sure that the grass was going in the opposite direction, so we had that perfect crispness on the stripes, and it did look absolutely, and it still does look absolutely magnificent.
It's a fine old art, isn't it? That a fine old art to get those greens as glowing like they do at Wimbledon. Let's turn our attention to this final. We've got Amanda Anisimova. She's taking on Poland's Iga Świątek. Now, Anisimova, the American, obviously she failed to qualify for the main draw at last year's competition. You know, I read that, you know, she went through a tragedy. Her father died at, I think, the age of 52, and that really sort of impacted her. How has she sort of turned this around, you know, and finds herself now beating Zabalenka, world number one, in the semis and into the final?
Yeah, she lost her dad when she was 17, and she was one of those players that was coming through and was, you know, tipped to go a long way. She got through to the semi-finals of Roland Garros, but her dad, as you say, was 52 and he died of a heart attack very suddenly. He was also her coach, so he'd been a large part of her tennis life, as well as, you know, part of her family life. And anyone who's lost a loved one knows how grief can completely derail you. And she carried on playing. She found it difficult being on the tour because a lot of the places she was going to, she associated being there with her dad, and you know, she struggled, and she spoke about having burnout, and she took some time out from the game. Now, it's a really big decision to do that when you're that young. Absolutely. But she has been coming back, and last year was a little bit too soon perhaps after she was coming back, but she has built up. As you say, she lost in qualifying, but she has just got better and better, and it's just been fantastic to see her climbing the rankings and finding her game, and finding her game on grass, which is something that Iga Świątek also has done this year.
And Lisa, do you think off the back of beating world number one Sabalenka in the semi-final that the momentum is with her going into the final this year?
Yeah, she's got a free hit. You know, nobody would have put her in the final. You spoke about all the seeds dropping out, and it happened quite quickly in the women's draw. Coco Gauff in a, you know, kind of a flurry right at the beginning of the week, and Anisimova was able to do her thing under the radar. She had a really great run through here. She's been playing some superb tennis, and as a result has been able to actually craft what she does on the grass. And that match against Sabalenka, that match point was just so mature, so confident, so ridiculous, really, smacking it from the back of the court right down into the corner past the world number one, who, gets to those balls, who was playing pretty good tennis herself. Must give her every kind of confidence. She had her family fly over unexpectedly. Her sister turned up with her nephews as she had won the quarterfinals, so they've been here. So she's been able to have a bit of a normality outside the bubble of actually the tennis as well. And I think she's just going to go out and enjoy things. She's going to see Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales in the Royal Box today. She's going to see all kinds of 8 former champions are up in the Royal Box today. We've got, it's a real stellar cast of impressive women, including the Vice Chief of the Defence Staff, General Dame Sharon Nesmith, who is the first woman to hold the rank of General in the British Army. So she's the highest ranked female officer in British history. She's going to be in the Royal Box.
Brilliant.
So it's just that little bit special. That's just a little bit. And she doesn't have to win today to impress us. But do not rule her out. I think Iga Świątek, if she doesn't take the first set 6-love, is going to have a little struggle on her hand today.
Brilliant. Right, just stay with us, because I want to get your take on this, Lisa, because former women's British #1 tennis player Lucy Arle was on Game Day Breakfast this morning. She believes Iga Świątek may have the edge today.
It is a difficult one. It's exciting, isn't it? You've got 2 players that have never been to this stage before. Obviously, Świątek's won 5 slams, never actually lost in a Grand Slam final, as my phone just slips down. Sorry.
Don't worry.
The glass table doesn't work. So, that's something to look out for. She's got a brilliant record when she gets through to this stage. Anisimova first final. It's been an incredible story, as you said. She lost in qualifying last year. She actually took a break from the game because of burnout and mental health. So, she was told that you're probably never going to get back up to the top of the game.
Lisa, as you just sort of said before, you think that there is a way for Anisimova to cause some trouble, but of course we're talking about Świątek here, who has won all 5 of her previous finals. She was dominant against Bencic in the semi-final. Would you still say that Świątek's the clear favourite here?
Yes, you can't get away from the fact that Świątek has the experience of the big games on the big stages, and you would normally just put her hands down, but she's had a terrible year. She's only just started finding some form. She hasn't won a final this year. Anisimova has, and Świątek has struggled previously on the grass. Wim Fissette, her coach, has been able to help her loosen up, because she says that I realise now that it's so quick on the grass. I just need to play on instinct, and that's why we've been seeing such brilliant tennis, because neither of them are really overthinking things too much. They're hitting the ball. They're just hitting the ball, and that's what makes it so exciting to watch. And the women's game, I think, has really blossomed in this glorious sunshine as centre court lies below me, ready for the players to come out. The Princess of Wales has just taken her seat in the Royal Box. Świątek has the experience of the big day, but it's on the grass. It's a surface that she is known, and she has been known to start slowly because she does suffer from nerves. So Anisimova, I think, needs to take this first set to make a real match of it.
And Lisa, just very quickly, looking ahead to Yannick Sinner against Carlos Alcaraz tomorrow in the men's final, who do you think will win that?
Oh, I think I'm going to make sure I'm dressed very comfortably. I might put some slippers on, because if it's anything like that French Open final, we're going to be here a long time. And to be honest, you have to suggest that Carlos Alcaraz, who's won it twice before, is feeling very comfortable on centre court. But, Yannick Sinner, the first 3 matches he played here was untouchable. And it was only when Grigor Dimitrov had his measure. He could have gone out there. He was a few games away from making his exit, and he had the fall and banged his elbow. So he's a little bit rattled. So you would favour Carlos Alcaraz, but Sinner's not going to go down without a fight. So I think we're potentially looking at another brilliant men's final as well. We've had some crackers. Last year was a bit of a damp squib. The one before was magnificent. bring it on. That's what I say.
Yeah.
I'll put my comfy shoes on.
Absolutely, Lisa. We'll let you go while you get your final preparations before we come back to you a little bit later in the show. That's Lisa O'Sullivan, our tennis correspondent at Wimbledon, at SW19, giving us a really great flavour heading into that final between Iga Swiatek and Amanda Anisimova. Right, next up, we're going to take a closer look with our very own Anil Kandola at how Manchester United are building for next season.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause. Former Forest striker Rob Earnshaw.
Let's face it, they'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. That's what I believe. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. I think he's become such an important player, an excellent talent. And on top of that, he's also their captain, the leader. And he's still a young man with not reached his full potential.
Forest have already lost Anthony Elanga to Newcastle. Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager, Alan Pardew.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings. You know, with Norgard going on to the Arsenal, it seems like a perfect replacement to me.
It's our understanding Henderson will opt for the red and white stripes of Brentford after leaving Ajax. Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone before a minute's silence prior to kick-off. All players will wear black armbands and the teams will lay wreaths. And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. Obviously, he didn't look great on against the Brumbies, but actually, you know, the scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, you know, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week, and then it'll be a little bit of a waiting game in terms of whether he's available for the first test.
He'd been widely tipped for a test starting place when he picked up the injury in the win over the Brumbies on Wednesday. Remember, Saturday's game against an Australian-New Zealand invitational side is live and exclusive on talkSPORT.
Good afternoon, how are we doing? It is the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside broadcaster and Chelsea fan Rory Jennings. We're going to get stuck into Manchester United, and by all accounts it sounds like literally going to be getting stuck into Manchester United with Anil Candola in a second. But here on talkSPORT earlier, you heard the British and Irish Lions beat the Australia and New Zealand Invitational 48-0. Don't forget that next Saturday is the first test against Australia, exclusively live on talkSPORT at 11 a.m. We've just been hearing from Lisa O'Sullivan. We're going to be going back to her now. She is watching the women's singles final. It's just getting underway. How's it looking, Lisa?
We're getting ready for the coin toss. Another Wimbledon and another brand new champion will be crowned this afternoon here on Centre Court. Will it be Amanda Anisimova or Iga Swiatek? Either way, whoever wins their first grass court WTA title will be the 9th different name on the Venus Rosewater dish in 9 years.
Brilliant stuff, Lisa. High stakes there and high stakes at the cricket. What's the latest, Sam Ellard?
Just underway in the evening session. India resuming 316 for Vive. Jadeja has 40. Nitish has 25. Just the 1 wicket for England in the afternoon session. KM Rahul out for 100. Just the 2 wickets in the day for England. Rishabh Pant was run out after passing 50 right before lunch. England opening with Joe Root after tea, which is an interesting decision. India 316 for 5, trailing by 71.
Thank you, Sam. Right, let's get into it. This is the Saturday session on talkSPORT. Okay, before we delve deeply into what on earth is going on at Manchester United, some breaking news coming out of the Lions camp from down under. Jamie George has been called up to the Lions squad to prepare for the first test against Australia following the injury Luke Cowan-Dickie suffered in today's game against the Aussie and New Zealand Invitational side. I think that'll be a huge relief to Jamie George, who I think will have been incredibly disappointed not to be in Andy Farrell's initial squad. Of course, you can tune into the Lions Uncaged podcast with Alfie Reynolds and Topsy Ojo to get all of the very latest on that. Right, we are now going to be discussing this question: are Manchester United going to improve on last season? Delighted to say the man next to me is the man in the know, talkSPORT correspondent Anil Candola. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good afternoon. I'm always very honoured to join people like you, even if we're talking about Manchester United. So yeah, very honoured, as I say, to join you boys, but dearie me, I don't think it could get much worse for Manchester United at the moment, could it?
Well, explain to me why, because people might say from the outside, well, Matheus Cunha is a fantastic signing. He looks like he could be that mercurial talent that can make things happen. I'm not saying he's going to be an Eric Cantona, but he's got that sort of swagger about him. Brian Mbeumo still not over the line, but probably will be. What do you make of what's happening at Manchester United? Because some people might say, well, they're doing all right.
Yeah, I think in isolated circumstances, the signings of Cunha and Mbeumo, respectively, are good signings. They're proven Premier League players. But I just look at Manchester United in a wider aspect. Of course, Alan Pardew was on the White and Jordan show yesterday, and it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. He was saying and suggesting potentially they could be in a relegation battle, but he did go on to say, look, at the end of the day, the situation is so worrying. And look, we know all of the situation with the Glazers. That's been obviously done and then some. But with Ineos, they came in and it was supposed to be a real new beginning for Manchester United fans to look forward to. But I just look at the way they've operated, I look at the decisions they've made, and it just doesn't fill me with any hope whatsoever. I genuinely do not recognise Manchester United Football Club anymore. You know, this idea and this notion of that Manchester United don't have a lot of money to spend, which I understand, and I can get that given the difficulties at the moment. But why then hire a manager who you know will need different personnel to implement his philosophy when you know that's going to cost hundreds of millions of pounds?
Do you know what's quite frustrating though, Anil? I think a lot of people find this, it's not necessarily a defence put forward by Manchester United fans, but there seems to always be a focus on the ownership. Now, don't get me wrong, I fully understand that the way that Manchester United have been stewarded over the past, say, 2 decades has not been acceptable. I'm not making any excuses for anyone involved. The Glazers, Malcolm Glazer when he was in charge, through to Ineos, they've all made bad decisions. But that doesn't change the fact that Manchester United was so abysmal last year. The players on the pitch that have been provided by the ownership are better than what we saw last year. There's no way that Manchester United should have been finishing where they did. There's no way that Manchester United should have been battered in a European final the way that they were. As much as you are correct, the ownership haven't been doing well. Why are we not talking about the woeful performance of Bruno Fernandes in the final? Why are we not talking about Casemiro, supposedly one of the jewels in the crown of that Real Madrid team, who has gone on to put in basically pitiful performances for Manchester United since he's arrived? Why are we not talking about Rasmus Højlund clearly not being good enough to play for Manchester United? Yes, the ownership, there is a problem. but we have to look at the personnel, the manager and the playing staff, don't we?
Yeah, of course. You can't have a discussion about Manchester United and not factor in the players and the managerial performances since especially Ruben Amorim's come in. It has been well below par, and I completely understand that. But at the end of the day, the ownership are the ones who have employed these individuals. Yeah. And if these are the people that they're hiring for specific jobs, whether it's to score goals, whether it's to manage a team up the league, then ultimately the owners are the ones who make the decision. So the dial almost goes back to them. I just think, look, at the end of the day, as you've already said, the Glazers, all that kind of stuff, we know that, we understand that, we've heard that for the test of time. But I think with Ineos, you know, this famous quote that Sir Jim Ratcliffe said when he first put his interest forward in terms of acquiring Manchester United, I want to put the Manchester back into Manchester United. The cloying statements like that, I think, just gave Manchester United fans such false hope that has been misplaced, and ultimately I just really fear for the future of the football club. Because you look at, I think even just from a Ruben Amorim perspective, look, if a new manager comes in and they're banging in loads of goals but they're conceding quite a lot, you can take that, or vice versa, then they're really not conceding many goals but they can't quite score any. That's okay, but you're seeing neither, and I just look at from top to bottom, there is just no element of optimism that I see at the club anymore. And ultimately, as I've already said, I just don't recognise the football club from what it was even 5-6 years ago, even when that wasn't exactly a great time. But you just look at any area of optimism or hope, I think it's all gone.
When you talk about not recognising the club, one of the most endearing qualities about Manchester United throughout history has been their ability to blood in young talent and for them to become key fixtures and important players. And now we're talking about a Marcus Rashford who's desperate to get to Barcelona, who can't wait to leave, alongside Jadon Sancho, Garnacho, another one come through the system petulantly like a snotty-nosed teenager wearing a Aston Villa Marcus Rashford shirt. That, for me, speaks to the culture, and I think it's a sad indictment. And for me, the challenge for United isn't just about getting Mbeumo over the line and signing other players. It's about getting rid of those sort of culture carriers, those negative culture carriers. And if they can't even get rid of those players, heading into next season, no wonder Alan Pardew sort of says half tongue-in-cheek, half seriously that maybe Manchester United are going to be a relegation dogfight next season. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And this is the whole problem with it. You know, the core of the negativity, if you like, and the toxic antics that go on amongst the players and in the dressing room. It's a worrying sign. And you know, it's a great point that you make there in terms of the youngsters. You know, the likes of Garnacho, the likes of Rashford. You know, Manchester United have always been associated with being the team in this country to be able to provide for youngsters to blossom and get into the first team and get real opportunity. You look at post Sir Alex Ferguson, how many players / managers / coaches have had a spell at Manchester United and left with any credit in the bank or improved their status, if you like? It's such a, as I said, sorry situation for United fans to be in, because ultimately, what is there to get behind and get excited about?
So what is the ambition next season? Like, realistically, what are we going to see happen at Old Trafford next season?
Well, look, I think ultimately with Ruben Amorim, he's made his bed, now he's got to lie in it. I think there's no doubt he's a talented manager. He's obviously still quite young. He has gone on to do some very good things at Sporting Lisbon, and I'm pretty sure that he will have a very good career as a football manager. Whether or not that's going to be at Manchester United, I'm not quite so sure. I think people were understanding that it's going to be a bit of a drop-off given the fact he was given an ultimatum to come in mid-season. Yeah. But the way in which they dropped off, the way in which they're playing football, and the way in which he's struggling, it seems to get his ideas across, is really worrying. Going back to your question, I think ultimately, if you're going to spend money, which they seem to be doing, buying in Premier League proven players, I think anything but European football, probably Europa Conference isn't even good enough really for Manchester United. I understand they finished so low in the Premier League last season, but you always have to maintain your expectation. There's a famous quote that I always say is, once you've had the taste of champagne, you don't settle for Prosecco just because it gets you drunk. You want to still maintain the high standards. You want to still understand what this club and the philosophy has always been about. So, I think European football is a must for Manchester United, but I really do look at them, forget the end of the season, Rory. The first 10 games, if we don't see a drastic change in the style of football, the style of play, the hunger, the attitude, as we've been speaking about as well, Max, then I really fear for him, and I really can't see him
fascinating
lasting the year, to be honest.
You say, Neil, and I take your point, you say that, Ruben Amorim's made his bed, he's got to lie in it. But is there not an argument that he's not actually been allowed to fully make his bed? Because
he hasn't got the pillows.
Because there's no pillows, there's no sheet, there's no duvet, mate. He's just got a rusty old mattress to lie on. And maybe he's been given a, I don't know, one of those. My missus loves, she's got like 500 different pillows on the bed. They've got one of those in Mateus Cunha, but surely he's going to be there in the summer twiddling his thumbs thinking, Ineos, come on, you need to back me here.
For sure. I get that, and I completely agree with that. He needs reinforcements, and that's what I was saying earlier. You can't employ a manager who has such a different philosophy traditionally to what Manchester United and the players are used to, and then not expect him to want to spend money. But you do have to look at Ruben Amorim as one of the culprits for the demise of Manchester United over the past year or so. Ultimately, your job is to improve players, and individually, maybe barring Amad Diallo, how many of them players have actually improved under Ruben Amorim's stewardship? So again, a lot of question marks. And as I say, the fact that the season was so poor at the back end, in particular of last campaign, he has to hit the ground running. Yeah. So I'll give him genuinely 10 games to prove what he can do. Otherwise, I think he's in big trouble.
First manager sacked?
I don't think it'll be Amorim. I think Ineos have enough. I mean, they've got enough sense to not sack Amorim so early. I think they need to give him time.
When you say sense, do you think it would be a good idea to persevere with him then?
I do, yeah. But what
I've seen
who
nothing.
are you going to get in? I mean, I don't even want to have this conversation about sacking managers before ball's been even played.
No, but you could. It's not about whether a ball's been played this season. It's about what we saw played last season.
Who knows? With a full pre-season, these players that were so dismal last season could turn up next season. We just don't know.
That performance that we saw from Ruben Amorim's team in Bilbao against Tottenham was sackable in itself.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree.
You think you should have sacked him?
To lose against a team
if the club still had standards,
yeah.
If the club were anywhere near the club that they once were, they would have sacked him on the spot. He wouldn't have got back on the plane with the players from Bilbao.
There you go. Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in, mate.
Losing to Tottenham in a European final, the great Manchester United.
He's
right. That's not sackable. I don't know what is.
He's right.
I just don't think it's realistic if you just brought a manager in mid-season and giving him a dreadful team, arguably the worst in history, and then almost blame their lack of success on him.
If you make a bad decision, you don't persevere with a bad decision just because you made it. When Jose Mourinho brought on Joe Cole, it didn't work. He subbed him 20 minutes later. You don't have to stick with the decision that you make.
One performance from Joe Cole.
I'm using it as an example to demonstrate making a bad decision. You don't persevere with a bad decision just because it's a bad decision, just because it is a decision.
I don't doubt that Ruben Amorim's job might well be, at risk early on in the season if they don't do well. But to talk about they should have sacked him after that Europa League final, I just think is
absolutely correct.
In your incorrect opinion, yes. Neil, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to quickly head over to SW19. Lisa O'Sullivan is watching the women's final. What is the latest, Lisa?
And we are underway. Amanda Anisimova won the toss and elected to serve first. And Świątek took the end, which is under the royal box, which meant the American was serving, facing Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Wales. And she showed a few nerves at that end, also serving with the sun in her face. And Świątek is having similar problems, shall we say, but is still managing to stay in front. Just 1 point so far for Anisimova in this match. Świątek serving 40 love, winning by a game.
Brilliant stuff. Lisa O'Sullivan reporting from Wimbledon. We're now going to head over to Lords where Sam Ellard is watching. What's the latest, Sam?
Well, England finally have their 6th wicket. It's Ben Stokes, the captain, after tea, who gets rid of Reddy for 30. A length ball that just bounced a little bit more, took the batsman by surprise, and there was an edge through to the wicket-keeper. So England have finally broken the partnership. Nitish Reddy goes for 30. Jadeja unbeaten on 44. Ben Stokes has the 2nd wicket. India 3-2-6 for 6, trailing by 61 runs.
Finally, absolutely vital breakthrough from none other than Ben Stokes in the cricket. Right, stay with us because we're going to be getting the very latest transfer news live here on the Saturday session on talkSPORT. Good afternoon. You're listening to the Saturday Session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory Jennings. Just before we broke, there was a wicket in the cricket. It's now 326 for 6. Ben Stokes with the breakthrough there on the third day of the test between England and India. It's hanging on a knife edge at the minute. And of course, at Wimbledon, Amanda Anisimova is 2 games down in the first set of that final. Lisa O'Sullivan will be bringing us some updates a little bit later, live from SW19. Right, you can now download the latest podcast from our After the Lights Go Out series, which features former Newcastle and Sunderland striker Michael Chopra. The dominant theme of the interview is his battle with a chronic gambling addiction, which led him into serious debt. And here he tells Leon McKenzie and Steve Harmison about a particular low point when gangsters showed up at the Ipswich Town training ground demanding money.
I was getting text messages in the morning saying we'd come to the training ground. So when I'm training, I'm looking about. I can't focus, do you know what I mean? There was a guy standing there pretending to get an autograph, and he was telling me, listen, you better get in the club and sort that money out now. Yet in the training ground car park, there was a car full of people that were waiting, do you know what I mean, sort of thing. So I used to go to bed at night. I used to have like chairs pushed up against the door so nobody could get in. If people did get in, then I was sleeping, had like kitchen knives by the side of my bed and that sort of thing. It was talking about my worst experiences and hitting rock bottom. That was probably it.
Wow, the full After the Lights Go Out interview, that incredibly raw interview with Michael Chopra, is available now from all of your favourite podcast providers, along with all the other podcasts from the series, including those featuring Carl Frampton, James Haskell and Marcus Stewart. Right, Rory and I are going to get into some of the latest transfer news, because what we're hearing this afternoon is that Newcastle United have rekindled their interest in French forward Hugo Ekitike as they look to find a striker to play alongside Alexander Isak. Ekitike has a release clause of around €100 million, 86 million quid, and Newcastle would almost certainly have to pay the full fee to get the transfer over the line. Rory, I'm bemused here. The reports here, I think they're from the Telegraph, is that it's for Ekitike to play alongside Isak, but surely there'll be questions as to whether he'll be replacing Isak. I cannot see Newcastle playing 4-4-2, let me say that.
No. I think there could be an argument that Ekitike could play alongside, but maybe in one of the wider positions. Some would say that he could complement Alexander Isak by playing.
But they've just got Anthony Elanga through the door, who's an out-and-out winger and the quickest in Europe. One of.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's about depth, isn't it? It's about Newcastle United trying to build a squad capable of winning the league. They've ended their drought for silverware. They've competed fairly well last year. They've done some big things, beating Arsenal home and away in the semi-final.
Little smile on your face there.
That competition was big. And look, Newcastle are a club, very ambitious owners, brilliant manager, moving in the right direction. They're assembling an excellent squad. What they don't have is depth. Because you saw it last year. Whenever any of the first 11 got injured, the cover wasn't good enough. So they're bringing in Ekitike. Certainly the line from the club will be to complement the squad and to potentially play with Isak. Can we extrapolate from that? Can we maybe glean that there is a world where he is not to come in to complement Alexander Isak, but potentially to come in to replace Alexander Isak?
Well, this was going to be my next question is, we often talk, and we were just talking off air in the break there with Anil about Arsenal, and essentially the consensus being, if Mikel Arteta doesn't win the title next season, he could well be gone. And following the same sort of logic for Alexander Isak, my question to you is, what do Newcastle United need to achieve next season in order to make sure that Alexander Isak remains a Newcastle United player?
Champions League qualification, I think, is the obvious answer to this.
You think that's it?
No, I think that's the first. That's the first. Okay. Like, if that doesn't happen, then whatever else happens, it's irrelevant. So they must be in the Champions League. If Newcastle United were to finish 6th in the league, and even if they were to win silverware, I don't think that would be enough.
So what would be enough?
I think in order to keep Alexander Isak, I think what they're going to need to do is compete seriously in the European Cup. I think they're going to need to genuinely become a contender. Make sure that they go through the group in a statement fashion, to win some serious games in the knockout, actually be a contender for the Champions League. I think that could satisfy Alexander Isak's own personal ambition, and then it will become about silverware. Then it will become about silverware, because Alexander Isak, in my opinion, is the best striker in the league. In fact, I think he is arguably the best striker in Europe. I would say Harry Kane is a better striker, but after Harry Kane, I believe Alexander Isak is the next name on the list.
Interesting. I mean, we could debate about that. I mean, he's certainly up there. There's no doubt. I guess the only thing about him staying at Newcastle is there will come a point in his career. I'm not going to predict. I don't know when this is necessarily. Only he knows. But where he will want to win domestic trophies year on year on. Look, I hope Newcastle do. I'm sick of seeing the same old procession at the top of the table. I would love to see a huge club like Newcastle become, a giant in domestic football. They are in stature, but in terms of what they achieve on the pitch, and I think there'll come a time where if Alexander Isak doesn't think that he is in with a chance year on year of winning the Premier League, I think he's going to be looking elsewhere. And the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Manchester City, the likes of Arsenal are all going to come sniffing.
The other thing that will help him stay at Newcastle will be the kind of signings that they make. That's how a player already at the club can gauge the ambition of the club. And I don't think he will be particularly inspired by the goings-on at Newcastle so far. I don't think he'll be particularly overwhelmed at the prospect of lining up with Alexander Isak, despite the fact that they're compatriots.
Anthony Elanga, you mean?
Anthony Elanga, sorry, yeah. I just don't think that is necessarily going to inspire him to the level. Where the question will become quite difficult, though, for Alexander Isak is when you try and explore the club that he could go and lead the line for. So, say, for example, Liverpool were to genuinely bid for him. I feel like it's almost
difficult to turn
it's
down.
A no-brainer. It's impossible for him to not want to go and play with Mohamed Salah for the current champions, a team capable of winning the European Cup, even in an off-season.
Yeah.
So I think that obviously having the Cops sing his name will be inspiring to Alexander Isak. But beyond that, I don't think there's many particularly more interesting propositions than the club that he currently plays for. Like, people keep saying Arsenal to me. It doesn't really make sense. I don't see why, even if you were to argue that Arsenal are in a better position, which I think
they are.
I think they probably are. I think they probably are. I don't think it's necessarily as cut and dry. They didn't win silverware last year. Newcastle did. They're both in the Champions League.
But in terms of it's all about the Premier League.
It's a diagonally upward move to Arsenal. Arsenal are obviously a bigger club. I'm not making this conversation about the size of the club. Arsenal are an infinitely bigger football club and an infinitely bigger project with an infinitely bigger history.
Infinitely bigger than Newcastle. One club.
Arsenal?
You think Arsenal are infinitely bigger than Newcastle?
That's the least controversial thing I've ever said in my whole life.
I mean, maybe it's because I'm a northerner. I'm not from this city, but I think that's a huge underestimation of how big Newcastle are. I think, of course, recent history, life under Mike Ashley wasn't particularly good, but we're talking about a massive club, massive fan base now with huge ownership. You talk about the wealth that they've got, and they've been hamstrung by PSR.
They just went nearly 100 years without a trophy.
I don't care. I just think you look at the fan base there, and I think it's absolutely different grade.
They were one club city. Yeah,
but you said infinitely.
Yeah, they are incomparable.
I think Newcastle fans will take huge issue to that.
I mean, they may well. And they are a massive club, Newcastle, as Simon Jordan said, in Newcastle.
But they're infinitely smaller than Arsenal.
Yeah, Max, this is the least controversial thing I've ever said.
They're
not comparable.
I'm sure there's plenty more.
If you're comparing Arsenal to where Arsenal rank in the pantheon of sort of great football clubs in Europe, Arsenal are one of the most recognised and prestigious football clubs in the world. Newcastle are nowhere near that.
Well, I tell you what,
I don't like Arsenal.
Non-Arsenal or Newcastle fans. Is Rory right? Give us a text 03717223344. Are Arsenal infinitely bigger?
The only people disagreeing here are Newcastle fans. It's literally you'll get a phone call in a minute from a Birmingham City fan, a Leeds United fan, a Southampton fan. They'll all go, "Yeah, Rory is bang on."
Sunderland fans, let us know what you think. Arsenal. Right, we're going to head back over to Wimbledon because Lisa O'Sullivan is watching the women's finals. What is the latest, Lisa?
Well, it looks ominously like Eve is opening up the bakery because she is 4-love up against Amanda Anisimova, who will definitely want to avoid a bagel, as they call it, if you don't win a game in the first set of this ladies singles final at Wimbledon. The first time that we've had two women born in the 21st century taking a tilt at the title. And just one statistic about Świątek. She achieved a return quality score of 9.9 in the semi-final. That's marked out of 10. It's the highest recorded in the tournament by any player. That's the kind of tennis the poll has brought to this. Anisimova, serving at love 4, has a lot to do to get back in this match and become the third American in the last 4 Grand Slams to win a Grand Slam title.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, it's looking ominous for Anisimova, and having heard her backstory, I certainly am rooting for her today. I've got to put my cards on the table, so hoping for a comeback there. I'm certainly rooting for Ben Stokes and the England boys at Lords. What's the latest there, Sam Ellard?
Yeah, they're fighting hard. 334 for 6 are India, trailing by 53 runs. England did pick up the 6th wicket after tea. Nitish Kumar already going for 30. A length ball by Stokes. They just bounced a little bit more, took the outside edge of Nitish Kumar Reddy's bat. Ravi Jadeja, though, he got runs in the second test match. He's getting runs today. Just brought up his 50, hitting Joe Root for a 4, beating Ben Stokes at mid-off. Ben Stokes has bowled a couple of lovely deliveries, though, to Jadeja, beating him on the outside edge on a couple of occasions. But Jadeja's hanging in there. He's past 50. The new batsman, Washington Sundar, has 1 run to his name, and India are 335 for 6, trailing by 52.
Brilliant, thank you, Sam. Right, England and Wales preview is coming up next. We're going to take your calls as well on Newcastle, and Jason Cundy will join us to preview his kick-off show following us.
Nottingham Forest are considering taking legal action against Spurs over their approach from Morgan Gibbs-White. They believe Tottenham acted illegally and breached confidentiality with his £60 million release clause.
They'll get down to the table, start negotiating at some point. It would be devastating for Nottingham Forest to lose Gibbs-White. He's become such an important player, an excellent talent.
Elsewhere, we understand Arsenal have agreed a £52 million fee for Noni Madueke. Jordan Henderson, meanwhile, to Brentford, has certainly got the vote of one former Premier League manager.
I think that's an inspired move because, you know, you look at Brentford, they look at the numbers, and obviously with the betting regime behind them in terms of the knowledge, they know that the performances Henderson's put in at Ajax have been of the level. Okay, they wouldn't take him otherwise. But the added bonus, of course, is the leadership that he brings.
Liverpool have confirmed they'll pay tribute to Diogo Jota before their friendly on Sunday at Preston. There'll be a rendition of You'll Never Walk Alone before a minute's silence prior to kick-off. All players will wear black armbands and the teams will lay wreaths. And some positive news on the injury suffered by Lions fullback Blair Kinghorn.
Sprained knee is what we're hearing. The scan has showed up way more positive than we'd hoped originally. So, we're hopeful that he'll take some part in next week.
Remember, Saturday's game against an Australia-New Zealand invitational side is live and exclusive on talkSPORT.
afternoon, how are we? You're listening to the Saturday session with me, Max Scott, alongside Rory Jennings. We're going to be getting some updates a little bit later on from all the live sport going on. England 335 for 6. And in the women's Wimbledon final, Amanda Anisimova 5-0 down. Iga Swiatek to serve to win the first set 6-love. Ominous for the American there. We'll be getting an update from Lisa O'Sullivan. But delighted to say that the man sat next to me who was partying till the early hours of the morning will be following me and Rory. It's talkSPORT's very own Jason Cundy. How are you feeling?
Gentlemen, good afternoon. See, there you go.
He don't know what day it is, does he?
He's all over shit. So I was at Jamie O'Hara's engagement party last night. What a night, by the way.
Yeah.
An amazing night, really well put together. Went to bed at silly o'clock. Woke up this morning, actually, woke up this afternoon at 1 o'clock, turned the radio and you boys are on.
We're still on now.
I got my sorry backside out of bed, got myself on a train, got myself in here, and you're still on air.
Still on air. With the grafters, with Pat Rafters.
You are.
Absolutely love it.
Did you have a good night?
It was a great night. So,
Who was the best? Go on.
So there were lots of ex-players, there was some celebrities there, that kind of thing. But I met Andy Carroll for the first time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Andy Carroll, right?
Yeah.
So
Big Andy.
Big Andy, right? So having a chat to him, and I'm thinking, what a lovely bloke. Like what? And I'm looking at him, he's like 6'4", 6'5", right? And I'm looking at his beard and going, what an amazing beard, right? What amazing hair. He's fit, he's wealthy. I've got this man crush on Andy Carroll. What a lovely bloke. And I'm looking at him thinking...
Is Mrs. Cundy next to you as well?
I don't know where Mrs. Cundy was, but he looked... Yeah, first and foremost, what a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at him going, oh my God, you look amazing.
I think he's still playing.
He's 36.
Is he in France?
He's come back.
Bordeaux?
He's coming back.
Right.
He's coming back. I don't know. He wouldn't tell me who... but there's a couple of clubs apparently interested. But I was so... impressed with Andy Carroll.
It's a good company as well.
Great company. What a lovely boy. But everything was like the hair, the beard.
All right, you said it, Jakes. We get it, mate.
Yeah. So we're doing man crushes, all right?
You're going to do man crushes?
Everyone's got a man crush. Who's your man crush? You must have a man crush.
Ryan Yates every day at week.
Right, okay.
Captain, leader, legend.
Right.
Best player for Forest. Absolute standard setter.
I'll tell you who's cool if we're going to do this seriously.
Go on.
Vernon Kay.
Oh, okay.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah, no, I see it.
Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
He's got a bit of the Andy Carrolls about him, ain't he? Big Northern.
Vernon Kay, yeah. Vernon Kay's cool.
Luscious hair.
Yeah.
Well,
can't go wrong.
I tell you what, talk about man crushes. I had a lovely text from Jill earlier on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Did you hear it?
I heard you.
I wasn't particularly happy because I was completely ignored and disrespected.
Was it the handsome?
The handsome.
It was the handsome.
What can I say?
Well, look.
You should make that your thing now. Just you're only referred to as the handsome Max Scott.
No, that sounded awful, wasn't it? Right, Jay, tell us what you got coming up.
So we're going to talk a bit of man crush. We've got Adebayo Akinfenwa coming in. We're talking about the Super Chels, up the Chels. Playing tomorrow, of course, in the World Cup final. Don't you know? We're going to talk about Palace as well. The injustice it feels that's been.
Yeah. I would agree. As a Forest fan, who will benefit from it.
Honestly, but this club, multi-club ownership, inevitably, I felt this was going to happen one day. Yeah. Right, and it's unfortunate that Palace find themselves in that. We're going to have a little bit of EFL action. Do you know the EFL kicks off in 3 weeks?
No,
get your head around that.
Get it back.
I know, but isn't that insane?
So for Chelsea, the season is still going on.
It's still going on. Our season's still going on.
I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
So we'll have EFL plus updates at Lords. I don't know whether we'll be getting updates from Wimbledon, though, because at the moment, Swiatek is absolutely battering. I mean...
it could be all over.
By the time we come on air, there's 20 minutes on air, just over.
Could be over.
It could be, right? So here's me saying we'll have updates from Wimbledon. I just don't know whether we will. Loads to go at, myself and Adebayo Akinfenwa. Man crushes, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I mean, ladies can still do it, can't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just called crush.
Why not? Keep your text coming in. Get them in early for Jason and Akinfenwa. It's going to be absolute belter, mate. Lovely to see you.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you, Jason.
That is very own Jason Cundy. He's going to be with Bayo Akinfenwa from 5 p.m. after Rory and I. But now we're going to turn our attention back to an absolute belter, an all-British showdown in the Women's Euros tomorrow, England versus Wales. And delighted to say, joining us is my good mate, Uma Gurav, talkSPORT's women's football correspondent. She is in St. Gallen. Uma, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. I've just arrived in St. Gallen, did the train from Zurich, and the sun is shining and it's looking all set for, as you say, a huge match tomorrow for Wales and England. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, well, what's the feeling like amongst England fans ahead of the game? Because, I mean, it was apocalyptic listening to fans after the France game, and then they went and absolutely pumped the Netherlands, and now Serena Wiegman's the best thing since sliced bread. So where are we at?
Yeah, again, you know, I feel like it flipped so much. Doesn't that just show you how fickle football fans are? And we always talk about, in Serena we trust. What were we all thinking, ever doubting her? I'm going to say I never doubted her, of course, but I think the feeling, honestly, it's so interesting to see how the narrative has flipped again from we could be going out of the Euros to we actually have a chance of retaining the title again. And yes, you know, you look at Spain play, but I think when you saw that performance, Lauren James inspired the team. Georgia Stanway back to her best. Hannah Hampton had some incredible passes. And you're looking at players who I think came in for so much criticism after the first game. And suddenly they're the talismans of this side. So I think that just shows you, firstly, I think how hard it can be coming into a major tournament up against a team like France. And I think secondly, just how strong and resilient this Lionesses team are, because they came through all of that criticism. And in the end, you know, it was only a 2-1 defeat to one of the best teams in the world. And yet it seemed like the end of the world, I think, for so many of the fans. And now they've got this chance, I think, to really go forth, and we'll see how they get on against Wales tomorrow. I think the general feeling, certainly among the fans, is that this is a game that they can and should win comfortably. But yeah, for England, I think the sky is the limit now.
Uma, to me, it feels like there's no real jeopardy about England winning this fixture against Wales. It feels like it's just by how many. Do you think this could be a really significant scoreline that could potentially bring a load of confidence to this England team and propel them into the competition?
I do, but I also think that for the England team and for Serena Wiegman, they will not be looking at it like that, because Wales have surprised everybody, I think. They came into this tournament, there was a huge furore over the fact that, you know, in Tesco's in Wales, they were advertising Lionesses rather than backing their own team, and everybody was underestimating them, and that's been the history of this Wales women team. They came out against France and they scored a goal. Jess Fishlock, 38 years old, she's become the oldest scorer ever at the Euros. And I think France were in trouble for a bit there, you know. I think that they just had a really strong performance, and I think they want to prove themselves. They've had a bit of turmoil here. Of course, their coach had a bit of a road traffic incident back in Zurich. Luckily, they all came through it okay. But to go through that and then come out the next day and put that performance on against France is so impressive. And I think Wales are going to have something to say about England just walking through them tomorrow. This is the biggest rivalry. All the players have been coming out saying, we would absolutely love to stop England getting through to the knockouts, because that would just be the best way to end their major tournament here. And they're also saying, actually, we've not accepted the fact that we're out, because mathematically they're not out. If they win by, I think it's 4 goals or more, they could technically still go through. I mean, something would have to go seriously wrong, I think, on England's side for that to happen. But that's the kind of mentality they're going in with, so I wouldn't count Wales out.
Well, on that, Lioness winger Lauren Hemp's been speaking to the media ahead of Sunday's crunch game against their rivals Wales, and the forward is not underestimating the task ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough match. Obviously, we've got so much respect for Wales. They've done really well in the competition so far, but we're very desperate to win, and we know what it's going to take to win. And we've reviewed the last game, we've looked at the game going forward, and yeah, I think we're just going to play to our strengths and do what we do. And yeah, you never know what you're going to get from this England team, but I tell you what you will get is a lot of fight and a lot of character, and yeah, we're going to try our absolute best to win.
Lauren Hemp there speaking ahead of the game. Uma, she's clearly not underestimating Wales, but let's be honest, this has to be a statement performance from Wiegman's side. What's your score prediction for tomorrow?
If you look at the fact that they beat the Netherlands 4-0, I think I'm going to go with the same. I'm going to go with a 4-0 as well, because I think Wales will put up a good fight. But I think once the first few go in, I think we might see a few. And I think Lauren James will probably grab another one. And I feel like Alessia Russo is going to grab a hat-trick. I think this is her time. I've been wanting her to score so much at this tournament. I think this is the moment.
Yeah, and it's certainly going to be something she deserves. She's been absolutely class on the grass. 3 assists last game. So yeah, I agree with you, Uma. Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on, Uma. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That is Uma Gurav, talkSPORT's women's football correspondent out there at the Women's Euros. Blockbuster tomorrow night. Of course, that's going to be live on talkSPORT 2. Now, you'll remember Rory's making some bold claims about Arsenal being infinitely bigger than Newcastle. We were talking about Hugo Ekitike as well, and the interest supposedly that Newcastle have, and we've got some Newcastle fans on the line. Michael, you're a Newcastle fan. What do you make of Ekitike, and what do you make of Rory Jennings' claim that Arsenal are infinitely bigger than your lot? I don't agree with him.
Hello, lads. All right?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate.
How are you, Rory, young man? Are you okay, son?
I'm very well, sir. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Do you know what it is? After the 15 years at Ashley, man, I'm smiling every morning I wake up. So, yeah. But here's the thing. I know what you're saying, right? Commercially, Arsenal are a lot bigger than Newcastle, and it goes with all the top 6 clubs, right? They're known globally, and Newcastle are just trying to find their feet right now. Now, if it wasn't for the PSR, the financial might that would come rushing down the country and flush the other clubs into the channel would be unbelievable. But unfortunately, we've got the handcuffs on, so we're playing by the rules, right?
Yeah.
You know that.
Mm. Yeah, no doubt.
Now, as far as the club's concerned, right, the Carabao Cup might not be, and not that you've said anything untoward, but the Carabao Cup's probably known as the smallest cup, but we're all thrilled that we've got it, right? Get it over the line. When you look at the path, the journey it took to get that cup, you had Brentford, which are a good side. Chelsea were knocked them out. Now, in the semis, we played Arsenal. We beat them 2-0 in both legs. And then we had to go to Wembley and knock out the best team in England, which is Liverpool. We don't look for accolades. And I know you're not dissing with Rory, right? I understand what you say. It's the commercial side of things that put Arsenal aside in Newcastle. If things change with the PSR, even Simon Jordan disagrees with it. Because basically you should be able to invest in the company, which, it is a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, do you know what? I agree. I agree with everything that you've said so far. I agree that the way that you won the League Cup last year was significant. I agree that you winning your first trophy for a long time could change the direction of the club. I also agree that the PSR issues that you have that are hampering your development are largely unjust. However, the reason that this conversation started was because I said to Max, rather flippantly, but I said to Max, the Arsenal Football Club are infinitely bigger than Newcastle Football Club.
He's retracting it already.
No, I'm not. And the reason that I say that isn't really to do. You're kind of making it an economic argument or a commercial argument. I'm saying that it's also a historic argument. The clubs don't really match. They're incomparable in my opinion.
Yes, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I know a one city club up in the northeast. But the thing is, over the generations, and I'm a lot older than you, and over the generations, you've had success. Arsenal have had success in the past, and with success brings notoriety, and with that brings economic power. So basically, you would say, what makes it a bigger club? Fan base? Well, you could say that because there'll be a lot of outside of nationals, again, which I say because of the popularity and how well they did in the past. But our fan base is absolutely second to none. People talk about travelling up the northeast and say, it's a hell of a trip. You think how many trips we've got to do each season?
Look, Michael, I agree with you. You're incredibly You're an incredibly well supported club. You are. Newcastle are an incredibly well supported club, but again, they're not as well. So when you say there isn't a support like it, Arsenal's support far outweighs Newcastle's. There isn't a metric where Newcastle are bigger than Arsenal. I can't think of one example to suggest that Newcastle are bigger than Arsenal in any metric. I don't like defending Arsenal here, by the way. I'm not enjoying this conversation at all.
You actually think that Arsenal support is bigger than Newcastle?
By a country mile, mate.
Oh, Rory, get yourself out of your London bubble. He ain't got a clue, Michael.
Are you genuinely, Max, do you genuinely believe that Newcastle have more fans than Arsenal?
In this country, yeah.
Mate, this is wild. What are you talking about?
Mate, I just think you need to get yourself out of your London bubble. Michael, I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. Right, Newcastle fans, get in touch, stay in touch, because we want to hear from you. 03717 223344 81089 if you want to get in touch via messages. Are Arsenal a bigger club, infinitely bigger club, quoting Rory Jennings, than Newcastle? Right, stay with us. Next up, we're going to preview the Club World Cup final and get some live updates from the cricket and from Wimbledon. Good afternoon, how are we? This is the Saturday session. I'm Max Scott alongside my mate Rory Jennings. We've been with you since 1 o'clock. It's absolutely flown by. We've been discussing some big topics: Crystal Palace, Europa League, Chelsea, Club World Cup final, Nottingham Forest, another legal challenge, and we're going to get into the Club World Cup in a minute and some Newcastle fans who are not happy with Rory Jennings. But first we're going to head to Wimbledon, where Lisa O'Sullivan is watching the women's final. It's not been a great start for Anisimova. Is there any hope for Elisa?
I want to cover my eyes. It doesn't feel very good at all for Anisimova. She's tight, she's overthinking it, and she cannot find her way into this match. Iga Swiatek, 6-love, 3-love, and about to serve to take a 4-love lead in this final. It would be a remarkable turnaround for Anisimova if she could get back in it. We've only had a double bagel once, or rather we've never had one in the open era, and you have to go back to 1911 for the last time that somebody lost a final 6-love in the ladies singles here. It's a really big ask, but if Anisimova could just open up and relax a bit, she'd get some shots back in. At the moment, she's struggling. Swiatek leads 6-love, 3-love.
Time.
Brilliant stuff, Lisa O'Sullivan. Fantastic. She'll be keeping us updated from SW19 throughout the rest of the evening as long as that final goes on. We're now going to head over to Sam Ellard, who's at Lord's, the home of cricket. What is the latest in the cricket?
India 348 for 6, just the 1 wicket in the afternoon session, in the evening session even, for England. Nitish Kumar Reddy going for 30, edging Ben Stokes behind for Ben Stokes' second wicket. Jadeja not out 59. Washington Sundar, the new batter of the crease, has 6 runs to his name. India getting closer and closer to England's first innings target. India 348 for 6, trailing now by just 39 runs.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, again, keep saying that one is on a knife edge. The third of 5 tests. Absolutely vital that Ben Stokes, who's bowling right now, gets another breakthrough. You'll have been hearing, though, on the show, Rory Jennings absolutely disrespecting Newcastle United, saying that Arsenal are infinitely bigger. Maybe Chelsea Rory, secretly just Arsenal Rory. Dave, the Newcastle fan, that was shocking, that. Dave, the Newcastle fan, has got in touch. Dave, what do you make of Rory Jennings' criticism, disrespect towards your club?
Yeah, well, all I wanted to bring up was just the ongoing Isaac potential buying from Newcastle. I just think that is just outrageously arrogant to think that Arsenal are so much bigger a club than Newcastle that they could just buy our best player and that they have every kind of right to buy him.
Yeah, do you know what, Dave? Dave, the point that I was making, I was saying that whilst Arsenal are a much bigger club historically, they aren't in a much better position on the pitch, and therefore I wouldn't understand the move from Alexander Isak if he were to choose to go. Well, what we agreed, Max and I, was that if Liverpool were to come in for Alexander Isak, he would leave at the drop of a hat. But Arsenal, the Arsenal links, the Arsenal speculation, it doesn't really make much sense to me because I believe Newcastle are in as good a situation as Arsenal going into next season.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. And I'm just sort of looking on historically in terms of European success. I think Arsenal's won one more European Cup than Newcastle.
How many more league titles have they won?
Well, I agree with that in the long term, but I think Newcastle are...
How many more FA Cups?
Well, currently the situation is we're not that far behind you, and we're coming for you.
Yeah, fighting talk, Dave. Oh, can I just say, Dave, while you're there, look after Anthony Elanga, top bloke, and I think you've got an absolutely raw talent in there. I think he's going to be really good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Absolute pleasure. He said what he wanted to say.
And he got gone.
And the message was...
places to go and people to meet. He's off.
The message to Arsenal was, we're coming for you. Right, absolute blockbuster stuff for the Newcastle fans. Rory, before we break, I've got to get your thoughts on tomorrow. Club World Cup final. For you, it's absolutely a prestigious tournament, despite the fact that I think most football fans rightly think that it's a cash cow for FIFA, and not lots of the best teams in Europe aren't even in it. But for you, it's really important. Give me your thoughts ahead of the game tomorrow, which of course is live exclusively on talkSPORT.
Desperate to win. Desperate to win. I will be over the moon if we can somehow win, and I will be heartbroken if we don't. I think that we have the opportunity now to make history. We have the opportunity to lift silverware in New York City. We have the opportunity to beat one of the most dazzling European winners that we have perhaps ever seen. In terms of a European final, I mean, apart from AC Milan, like that great AC Milan team, Marcel Desailly's AC Milan team, dismantling Barcelona the way they did in the final of, 94? Apart from that, I don't think there's been a more dominant, a more embarrassing defeat a more one-sided European final. So we are going up against Luis Enrique, a true great of the game. We're going up against this Paris Saint-Germain team, a true great of the game. And we have the opportunity to beat them. I really hope we do it. I concede that we are underdogs, but I also believe that there is a world where we can do it and have won silverware before a ball has actually been kicked in our domestic season.
Don't get me wrong, you know, as an Englishman, I want English teams to do well. I want Chelsea to win the Club World Cup, but I don't think it's going to happen against PSG, who, for me, under Luis Enrique, are on a different planet. Rory, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
It has been. Well, at various points it has been. You've had your moments, but generally it's been all right.
As of you, mate, you have your moments far more regularly than I do. Right, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, stay tuned because we've got an absolute belter of a kickoff, a rather hungover, ropey Jason Cundy with the legend that is Biohacking Fenway.